Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Monday, May 8th meeting of the Tuckahoe Village Board of Trustees. Will everyone please rise and join me in the pledge of the flag? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Will the village clerk please call the roll?
Trustee Giordano.
Present.
Trustee Luisi.
Present.
Trustee Leo.
Present.
Trustee Alfasi.
Present.
Mayor Eklund.
I am here tonight. We're going to start off tonight. I have a few appointments to make. I'm going to start off with the first appointment is the appointment of our planning board member, Anne Marie Charmella, for a term of 5 years. Do I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Next is chairperson of the planning board, Anne Marie Charmella. This is a term of 1 year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Next is zoning board of appeals member, Nathan Jackman, term of 5 years. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Next is zoning board of appeals member, Daniel Lang, that's L-A-N-G, to fill the unexpired term to expire March 31, 2021. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Next is the chairperson of the zoning board of appeals, who is Tom Ringwald. He will serve for 1 more year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Assessment review board member, Kathy Galucci, term is 3 years. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Next is library board member Elaine Gary. She is filling the unexpired term, which will expire on March 31, 2019. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. All right, that's going to bring us to our first section of our agenda, or second section, I should say. Presentations. We're going to start with Danielle Nealis. She's from the Tuckahoe School Board before we get to Mr. DeMarco, so we're going to go a little bit out of order. She's here tonight to talk to us about, there is a vote coming up in the Tuckahoe School District.
Good evening. Thank you for having me. I apologize for my back. I wanted everyone to be aware that.
Oh, hold on one second. I'm sorry. We just want to make sure that microphone is on. Apologies, we're having some issues tonight.
Well, I get a do-over.
Ah, there you go. Okay, excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me. Good evening. I wanted everyone to know that next week, on Tuesday, May 16th, will be the Tuckahoe Schools vote on the budget, board trustees, and a special vote on the district purchasing property on 110 Ridge Street. Just like to show everyone this. This is a mailing that went out to every resident of Tuckahoe. You should be getting it today, tomorrow. Be on the lookout for it because it's not junk mail. The proposed budget for 2017 and 18 is $32,502,899. This budget ensures both academic and extracurricular activities, still staying under the 2% tax cap at a tax levy increase of 0.80. The district's 5-year tax levy average has been 1.47%, so we are below that while continuing to maintain a healthy fund balance. This school year, the current administration has been able to add a multitude of programs and sports teams, as well as meeting the needs of our growing enrollment. There's a lot more detail in this flyer, and I know that Carl Albano, the superintendent, and I were here last month and went into great detail about it. We also are going to be having a special vote to acquire the property at 110 Ridge Street. It will cost $662,000, plus related expenses of no more than $18,000 for closing and inspections. We'll be using existing fund money balances to make that purchase if the community decides to go ahead with the purchase. Acquiring that property would give us much needed land. We don't have a lot of space in Tuckahoe at all. We are land poor. There's no room. The school districts are growing. Everybody wants to come here, which is a great thing, but then our classes get very full. So obtaining this would give us some wiggle room. The plan, the thought process is that the property will house district offices or classrooms, whatever the need seems to be at that point. I mean, it's going to remain aesthetic, physical, like the structure will be pleasing to the eye. It will continue to look like a house. It will not look like an industrial building or a school building. I know that's important to the neighbors in the community. We want it to look like it fits in. Does anybody have any questions about that?
No,
I just want to, because it's been out there, and I just want to make sure everybody's clear on how that's working.
My question is, isn't there a component of expanding Cottle and or building a new gym? Is that,
So, yes.
or is that the long range
There is a
plan?
capital improvement plan that's been in discussion during this school year. I've only been on the board since July, and it's been an ongoing discussion. We're moving very quickly with that now, and a proposal for the bond will probably be rolled out come September and a vote in October. You know, sooner, but the vote in October is the plan. That would include
Okay, so
possible expansion of the gym and an additional 8 classrooms in Cottle, expanding the library, the cafeteria, updating everything, increased security measures. All those things have been talked about, but that's not what we're voting on next week. We're only voting on a yes or no to purchase 110 Ridge Street to give us some more options. And once May 16th we know what's going to happen, we'll be able to fine-tune the proposal a lot better, knowing what we're able to house or not.
okay, thank you.
is it an empty house now, or this house that you're?
It is.
It is, okay.
It is. We entered into a contract, the board entered into a contract, and they gave us an extension because our vote was supposed to be on the day of the nor'easter.
All right.
So now it's going to be next week, but we would have to give them $15,000 if it's voted down and no additional losses after
Okay.
that. It seems like so the house would be, people were talking that it might be knocked down and made a parking lot. That is not the discussion among the board. It's been publicly stated that the house would not be knocked down to make a parking lot or a tennis court. The house would be used for district offices or classrooms, which would in turn give our kids in the school more room. That's the point. We have so many expanding programs, so many kids coming into Tuckahoe, and we have no place to put them. I moved here, I wanted 16 kids in my class, in my kids' classes, and now they're up to 28, 25, 27. And that's not optimal. So we want to give them the best we can. Also that day is the trustee vote. We have 3 open positions. 2 of them are 3-year terms, and 1 is a 1-year term that will finish out the term of someone who stepped down. So, and that will be decided based on the number of votes that each person gets. So the top 2 votes will get the permanent seats, and the third highest number of votes will have that 1-year seat. The candidates are Michelle Licio, Anthony Fiore Jr., who's right there, Cynthia Biondi Tate, Peter Casson, Bobby Lee, and on the mailer it says Catherine Tesoro, but she dropped out after the mailing went out, after it was sent to print. So she is not, her name is on this ballot, but she will not be on the ballot in the school. And I'm running as well to maintain my seat. I just wanted to make sure that people come out and vote next week. It's very important that we get feedback from the community, and this is the way to do it. We don't know what anybody's thinking unless they come out and voice their opinions, and this is your chance to do it. So it will be from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. Tuesday, May 16th. 3 polling locations where you normally go to vote: the Community Center, William E. Cottle School, and the Chester Heights Firehouse.
Good, very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for coming
Thank
down
you,
tonight.
Amy. Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Next, we're going to have a special presentation from Frank DeMarco. Frank's going to talk to us, as he does every year, on our MS4 report. Very exciting news. Yeah.
This is always exciting. But what I'm going to talk about tonight is our annual municipal stormwater report, which is due this time every year. But the infamous question that I'm always being asked is, what is our infrastructure? You know, what do we have under our roads? We have 4 to 5 items under our roads, utilities. We have water, which is Suez, which is controlled and maintained by Suez. We have gas and some electrical under our roads and sidewalks, which is controlled by Con Edison. We have our sewer and our stormwater, which is controlled by us. Now, I'm going to just talk briefly about the sewer and stormwater. Our sewer is, you know, house water waste, which is your toilets, your showering, your kitchen sink, and that leads to our filtration plant, which is located in Lower Yonkers. Our stormwater lines collect rainwater that is taken to our waterway, which here is the Bronx River. The two, the sewer and stormwater, should never meet. There should continue to be 2 separate lines. If our rainwater is combined with our sewer water, our processing plants sometimes become overwhelmed and sometimes are spilled into the waterways, which will be the Hudson River, in this case, because our filtration plant is down in Yonkers. Then again, if we have wastewater leading into our storm system, that leads into our waterways, which is something we just can't have either. Well, people are not sure. They don't understand the fact that sewer, house sewer, water, and stormwater are 2 separate lines, and they need to be maintained that way. And here in the village of Tuckahoe, we do our very best to make sure of that. But what is an MS4? An MS4 talks about our municipal stormwater, and we have to file that every year with the New York State DEC and with the county to show every measure that our village and all the villages in Westchester are taking to make sure that this is happening. So what happens, what is a storm sewer? What is rainwater? Well, rainwater runs out into the streets and is collected into this catch basin. It's not a sewer catch basin, it's a storm water catch basin. We need to separate the two. So the water goes into these catch basins, and if you're unfamiliar with what they look like, and most people drop their keys in them, and they call DPW to retrieve them. But they have these big open grates, and rainwater just falls into them. That is taken to the Bronx River. Along the Bronx River, we have 7 what they call outfalls. These outfalls are monitored by me 2-3 times a year to make sure there's no illicit discharge. What illicit discharge is, any oil residue, any foaming of the water, anything that might look like it's hazardous to our environment. And I make this report 3 times a year. This report is also part of our MS4 application. But these catch basins are maintained by the village of Tuckahoe. They have a medallion on each one, and this medallion identifies each catch basin. It clearly specifies that it's going to go into our waterways. Please do not dump into them. And they also have an ID number that we GPS and GIS each one of these catch basins. So we know the location, we monitor the condition, and we also know if someone calls and says to us, you know, there's a catch basin, it looks like it's collapsing, I'll ask them to go out there and give us a number. The number that's identifying that catch basin will tell us exactly where it is, what work has been completed to it, and where it goes as an outfall. If people are even interested, on our website, on the Tuckahoe DPW, I think it's under stormwater, We have a stormwater map that shows our outfalls. So the particular catch basin that's located in a certain area will tell us exactly which outfall is going to be leading out to. This is important to us because if there's ever an oil spill in a certain location and we're called out to help remediate or mitigate it, we know exactly which outfall to block before it reaches our waterway. So these are some of the things that DPW has done over the years. And again, illicit discharge could be a combination of things. It could be oil being thrown into the catch basins. It could be fertilizer being thrown into the catch basins. Walking the dog with a litter bag being thrown into the catch basin. Floatables, cans, any of that could be. So we ask that everybody please monitor our catch basins for us. And if they see anybody throwing anything into them, please let me know. There's been numerous times I'll stop by a house and tell people not to do what they've been doing over the years. You know, we all need to protect our environment, not only for ourselves, but for our children. What is Tuckahoe doing? Tuckahoe's been doing a number of things over the years. We've tried to implement hydraulic stormwater separators at the DPW yard, at the Fisher Avenue parking lot. And what this separator does, it just separates all the contaminants. It goes through a series of chambers and mechanically separates all the contaminants, the oils, the floatables. So once every year we go in there and clean these chambers to make sure they're up to par. All this is collected before it goes out into our waterways. So you could imagine what we've collected over the years to purify our water. We've introduced bioswales throughout the village, which helps to naturally filter our waters. And also at the Fisher Avenue parking lot, we've implemented pervious pavement into our parking lot. So before the rainwater reaches our system, our storm system, it's been naturally purified. So these are some of the things that we're doing. Where to access this MS4? There'll be 4 locations that everyone could access these MS4s. Once the mayor signs them, they'll be accessed at the library, or Tuckahoe Library, the village clerk's office, DPW office, and we'll also have it on our Tuckahoe website. And that's really all I have. Does anybody have any questions on this?
You know, it's funny. I was talking to somebody after our last meeting, and they were talking about how years ago, you know, you think about what people did, you know, go back 30, 40 years ago. They would empty their oil of their car. They would drain the oil and put it down there. You know, it was just, people thought that was totally acceptable. But it just goes to show, you know, when you describe where that's actually going, that's very unacceptable, that's for sure. I can't believe you tell me that people actually call because they dropped their keys. I'd never thought about that. I would have never thought
get
about
that
that.
all the time.
Really?
Yeah, what happens in each one of these catch basins, there's a sump. There's like a 12-inch sump that has standing water.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is that sump collects, it also purifies the water because it collects minerals and those contaminants that'll drop to the bottom. And just so everybody knows, we have 356 catch basins throughout the village. We clean 1/3 of them every year as part of our MS4. And what we clean is the actual sediment that sits at the bottom of sumps of each catch basin.
We've had a lot of a lot of them have collapsed. I noticed that we seem to be repairing a lot of them recently. Is that any particular reason? Just we had a bad winter, or?
It's just aging infrastructure.
Okay.
We're almost caught up on it, though, I feel.
Yeah.
We've been doing quite a bit of it,
Yeah.
of the repairs.
Okay.
But while I'm on the topic, I also want to talk about Westchester County. Westchester County is coming in beginning this week to drop larvicide in each catch basin. And when they do that, they're going to identify it by a bright orange spray paint on the catch basin head. And just so everybody knows, what the larvicide does, it controls the breeding of mosquitoes, including those carrying the West Nile virus, which is important. The Westchester County's been doing this for about 10 years now. They do let me know when they're coming in and when they're scheduling to do the larvicide drops. So I spoke to them today, and they're coming as of this week.
That's good.
Another control measure that the village has taken is we've applied over 1,000 minnows into the quarry, which has the existing water in it, the quarry behind your home, Mayor.
Mm-hmm.
What these minnows do is actually do the same thing as the larvicide does. they feed on mosquitoes and those breeding the West Nile virus.
Yeah, I saw in the newspaper, the county was, advertising that municipalities could go ahead and ask for that, so, yeah, thank you.
We're taking advantage of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have.
Good, thank you. All right, that's going to bring us to our public hearing. We have only one public hearing this evening. That is a public hearing to consider a proposed local law amending Section 21, traffic of the Village Code regarding commercial vehicles. Do I have a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor?
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. All right, the public hearing is now open, and I'm going to ask our village attorney. I know our chief of police isn't here tonight. I do see Lieutenant Rolnick, but maybe Gary wants to talk a little bit about
I'll
this.
talk about it, Mr. Mayor, thank you. So bottom line is our code has two sections restricting commercial vehicles. One is 21-75. In that section, it's short. It reads, "No commercial vehicle of any type shall be parked on any street in the village for a period of longer than 2 hours between the hours of 8 a.m. and 12 midnight." The second section is 21-76, and it's also short. It says, "No commercial vehicle of any type shall be parked on any street in the village between the hours of 12 midnight and 8 a.m." Now, what we're doing tonight is we're looking to basically define commercial vehicle, because commercial vehicle is not defined in this section. So what we would do is add to this section what a commercial vehicle is, and I can run through, it's only about 8 short, brief things.
Okay.
The definition, we're proposing to define a commercial vehicle as any vehicle which exceeds 6,000 pounds in weight, exceeds 20 feet in length, exceeds 8 feet in width, displays a livery or taxi license, displays signs or lettering, carries tools, supplies, or equipment visible from outside the vehicle, has temporary or permanent carrying racks designed and/or used in subsection F, which was the tools and supplies, except that racks installed by the original manufacturer at the time of assembly of the vehicle shall be permitted, and then step van, trailers, semi-trailers, tractors, or buses. So that's going to be basically the definition of what a commercial vehicle is, again, because we don't have it defined.
Does that line up with the New York State Department of Motor Vehicles?
It does, and there's a number of municipalities also in Westchester that this lines up with. And I know the chief has been working on this for quite some time now, and Mr. Burke has also been adding his input in this one also.
All right, good. Is there anybody from the public who would wish to speak about this particular issue? And anybody from the board?
I have a question for clarification for the residents. A commercial vehicle can, by definition, still have passenger plates on it then, is that correct?
Well, they're not, and I think,
Well,
I think we run into the problem where people register, they'll have a van, and they'll register their van as a passenger van so they can use the parkways. Then all of a sudden, they take out the seats in the back and put the tools in there, they put the ladder racks on, even though they have passenger vans, which is not proper, and I know our police department, if they pull over a vehicle like that, would ticket them for having improper plates.
Okay. So it's not necessarily, so a commercial vehicle could have passenger plates, is my question, by this definition?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And I think the other problem that we've run into before was Connecticut. People down here with Connecticut plates, Connecticut has, they have like a mixed-use vehicle
Right,
where it's
right.
commercial and passenger. So again, we just want to define exactly what a commercial
Okay.
vehicle is for our code. So if there is a vehicle that is violating this section, that we can go out and ticket it and have backup if we have to go to court.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right, anybody else? Okay, so then do I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. That's going to bring us to adoption of minutes. I noticed that we actually did approve the minutes for the April 3rd meeting at our last board meeting, so we're going to pass over that. So that's going to move us to the approval of the minutes of our budget hearing, village board meeting of April 10th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor?
Trustee Leo.
Favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Next is approval of the minutes of the special meeting, budget adoption meeting of April 24th, 2017. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
Favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor?
Trustee Leo.
Favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And that's going to bring us to our first opportunity to address the board on anything that's on our agenda tonight. Yes, sir. If you just give us your name and your address, please.
Bert Stern, 14 Westview Avenue. First of all, about the school elections, I just happened to look at the school website for capital projects, and I know the lady who was speaking here wasn't talking precisely about what will come in the fall, but if you do look, and I suggest everyone look at that website and find out what the proposed expansion actually is and how much it would cost, because they have a beautiful graph there that shows that on average, if there are two propositions, if both of them are passed, whether they're in September, October, whenever in the fall, it would add close to $1,000 to your taxes on the average home. So if you have an unaverage home, an average home of, let's say, 50% more than the average home, you'd be paying close to $1,500 more per year in taxes. So I suggest people look very closely and get prepared for the elections in the fall. There are a lot of things there that are, I would say, are questionable at the least. And that plus the cost of the eventual cleanup of the quarry project will make taxes here really skyrocket. So I think everyone should be very aware of what this entails. The second thing I have is I have a problem with your election of one of the people to the planning board. I don't think you've done due diligence. I'm referring to Anne Marie Chiaramella. I feel like she's bowed down to every developer's demands. She's helped substantially to create the overdevelopment of this village. She has cut off public discussions. She's ignored the protocols that are required by almost every village and every township by voting against the environmental impact study. I've seen how she worked against the Marbledale Coalition over and over again. This was the most important study, the EIS study, ever needed by Tuckahoe. She never even explained her reasoning for her negative vote, which for many of us was an affront to us and another failure in her job. And additionally, she has failed to run the planning board's meetings properly and often seems to be lost in the procedures. In my estimation, she is way past her prime. Yet you have ignored her shortcomings and put her back on the planning board, and for her to continue to do more damage to this village. You're not doing your job here. I believe you should retract your nomination for the good of all of us. Thank you.
Thank you for your opinion. Anybody else wish to address the board on anything that's on our agenda? Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. Good.
My name is Kate Weiss.
Kate Weiss. Yes. And you live?
Channing Place?
Channing Place, Eastchester. Okay, got it.
I'm concerned, just wanted to say that I'm concerned about the test results from Paul Simonello's testing and the testing.
That's actually, you can speak
Later?
about that later on, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Anything on our agenda that's on this agenda tonight? Okay. No problem. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Maria Palumbo from Eastchester.
Your address, please?
9 Maple Avenue.
Thank you.
Mr. DeMarco was discussing the difference between storm drains and the sewer system.
Yes.
Question, was there a testing of the sewer system or the storm system last week in connection with the Marbledale Road, a hotel project?
I wouldn't know. We can get you, we'll get an answer for you.
Yes.
Okay.
The reason I'm asking is I noticed that the catch basin at the bottom of the hill on Marbledale Road and Glen Road seemed to have been repaired or there was some problem with it.
Well, I noticed that there actually, he's had to repair quite a few, so I don't know.
Right. Also, I found at the corner of Glen Road and Marbledale Road, there was an accumulation of some fluorescent green fluid. I don't know if it was fluorescein that was used to test any of the water systems or if it was actually something that was dumped by the local body shop because there was also oil pooled there. So just speaking to what Mr. DeMarco was saying about reporting something that you see,
Good.
I contacted the police department and I reported it, and I suggested that they call the health department. I was told that it wouldn't be handled that way, that it would actually go to the fire department. And I had to run an errand, and when I went down the street, I saw that the fire department was there very promptly. I thanked them. And they proceeded to remediate whatever the spill was. It looked like they put some sort of granules there. I truly thought that they were going to dig it up and put it in a bag and maybe give it to the body shop to dispose of. But I don't know whether or not they put it there. I traced it. It went up to their parking lot, you know, where they keep their cars. It looks like that's where that liquid came from, or went up to. I don't know what direction it actually came from. So if it was part of testing of the drain of the storm system or the sewer system, it may have actually come up from the storm drain and gone up that way. But if it was actually dumped by the body shop, then it went in the other direction. I went there later on that night and I found that that material was still there. My concern was that we were expecting 3 inches of rain that night, and I was truly hoping that they would remove it, because what's going to happen is the kitty litter or whatever that was is going to dissolve, and that oil and that whatever the chemical was going to go into the storm drain, which it did after all was said and done. So that was number one. The other question I had for you with regards to the new regulation that you have regarding commercial vehicles, is this only for residential area or also for the commercial areas?
It's for the entire village. It's just a definition of what a commercial vehicle is.
Okay, and when will this be implemented?
It's implemented right now.
Okay, what will happen with the commercial vehicles on Marbledale Road related to the hotel development? Will they be allowed to park on the street for more than 2 hours?
The planning board resolution, they're not supposed to be parking on the
Yeah.
street right now anyway. So we'll have to monitor that, but no, our code has, and we're not changing the law. It's
We're
just,
just a-
it's
it's a
the
definition.
That's why I asked
Yeah.
whether or not this was in regards
would
to
change.
residential streets
No, it would be
or also
village-wide,
commercial
yeah.
streets. Okay. And then for Mr. Giordano, I just would like to ask about your support of Ms. Anne Marie Chiarmella for the planning board positions. In the meeting, the last meeting before the elections, you mentioned that you did not hold the same opinion as the rest of the board regarding the hotel project. I only wish you would have expressed that earlier when it might have made a difference. Given your disagreement with that project, I would wonder whether or not you support Ms. Chiarmella in this position now, given all of her efforts to move this project forward.
I think I can answer your question. First of all, while I may personally not think that a hotel, or have questions about whether a hotel is the best thing for our community, I think I join all of the board by feeling that we need to follow the law, right? So that is not, it's, you know, whether I'm personally think it's great or not for our community, what I do feel is great is that people have a choice to be able to use private property in a way that is allowed under the law. And I think I join all of my board in saying that I believe that the hotel is a use that is supported by the law, and I don't think it's illegal. So I just want to clarify that. And when it comes to Mrs. Chiarmella, I just voted, I believe, so you have you see along with the rest of the board that I voted
I
in.
wasn't here for that. I
Oh, we just had a resolution, and I voted in favor of her her term to continue on the planning board. So
It's unfortunate because any opinion that you might have had an influence on the board, perhaps even just to have them require an environmental impact study would have been helpful. So I'd just like to express
thank you.
my disappointment, but
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else, anything to speak on items on our agenda? And if not, we're going to move on to resolutions. Resolution number 1 is adopting a proposed local law amending Section 21, Traffic of the Village Code regarding commercial vehicles. This is adopting the law for the public hearing that we just had. Do I have a motion? Second?
Second. In favor.
In favor.
In favor. In favor.
In favor. Resolution 2, authorizing the annual Gifford Street Block Party on June 10th Rain date of June 11th, from noon to midnight. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 3 is authorizing the mayor to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Eastchester, Village of Bronxville, and the Tuckahoe and Eastchester Union Free School Districts for street resurfacing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 4 is authorizing the mayor to execute an intermunicipal agreement with the County of Westchester for members of the Tuckahoe Police Department to instruct at the Westchester County Police Academy. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 5, authorizing the mayor to execute a shared services agreement with the New York State Department of Transportation for equipment sharing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 6, authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Fireworks by Grucci Incorporated for the annual Tuckahoe fireworks display, which is going to be on July 8th. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 7, authorizing a tax tertiary settlement for 60-66 Marbledale Road LLC for an assessment years 2010 through 2016 with street addresses of 60 Marbledale Road, Section 35, Block 2, Lot 12, in the amount of $33,260.19. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 8 is authorizing a tax tertiary settlement for Bronxville Properties, Inc. for assessment years 2007 through 2014 with street addresses of 107-111 Kensington Road, Section 23, Block 6, Lot 8, in the amount of $14,561.56. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 9 is authorizing Dolph Rotfeld Engineering, P.C., as village engineer consultants for the 2018 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
In favor.
In favor.
Favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution 10 is authorizing James Pinto as engineering consultant for the 2018 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second. In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor.
In favor. Resolution number 11 is authorizing BFJ Planning as planning consultant for the 2018 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
I'm going to talk a little bit about this. We actually had a pretty long discussion about our relationship with BFJ Planning. I know that some members of the public have come out to some of our meetings and said, you know what, we don't think that that this firm, and actually Frank Fish, one of the principals, is necessarily had the best interests of the village in mind. So we actually had a meeting with his firm, and we've decided to actually continue our relationship with them, but we have a new urban planner who works for the firm who will be handling the village's business. So we're very comfortable that he understands the direction that we need to move, and that was the basis for the decision of maintaining that relationship.
In favor.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Resolution 12 is authorizing the law offices of Jeffrey E. Storch as bond counsel for the fiscal year 2018 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
favor.
Trustee Luisi.
Favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. Resolution number 13, authorizing the law offices of John Burkhardt as tax certiorari counsel for the fiscal year ending 2018 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And Resolution 14 is a resolution for the tax collector's warrant for the adopted budget for the budget year June 1, 2017 to May 31, 2018. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Trustee Giordano.
In favor.
Trustee Luisi.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And Resolution number 15 is authorizing the approval of vouchers in the amount of $528,722.99. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
It's a high amount. Last month, we also had a high amount. We actually had 2 months' worth of insurance premiums, I believe, last month. So I'll just run through a couple of the large vouchers that we're paying in this $500,000 bill. We have the three largest invoices paid were $136,835 for the health insurance premium for the month of May. Let's see, we had $62,584 for Civ Paget and Riesel Consulting Services for February, and another $62,561 invoice for the same law firm. That's the law firm who is handling our Article 78 defense on the Marbledale Road project. And so that's why it's such a large amount, this one. Normally doesn't run that high.
In favor.
In favor.
Trustee Leo.
In favor.
Trustee Alfasi.
In favor.
Mayor Eklund.
In favor. And that's going to bring us to our departmental reports to the board, and we're going to start with Lieutenant Zerolnik. Do you have anything for us tonight, or nothing at all? Okay. Mr. DeMarco gave a pretty good report to us tonight. So, Gary, you got anything for us? Okay, good. David, anything?
Pango, as you know, you approved that agreement, and we've implemented that in our long-term parking, and it's actually worked out pretty well. We had an average of over 25 users each day last week, and today we had 26 users. So it is working well. In the next couple of weeks, we'll be meeting with them to see how we can implement it in the short-term parking. And second thing is paving is actually coming up quickly this year. Usually we pave in later in the summertime. However, the paving contract, you just approved the IMA. They're looking to come in here within the next month. So you'll see a lot of, hopefully we'll have all the streets, and you'll see a lot of streets paved in about a month from now. So that'll be a great thing.
That's good to get it done early, yes. Yeah, they used to come in August, I know, every year. So, good. All right, miscellaneous business. Our next village board meeting is going to be on June 5th, 2017. And that will bring us to our Board of Trustees member reports. And as always, we start with yours and my Deputy Mayor, Tom Giordano.
Thank you, Mayor Eklund. I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay. Trustee Luisi.
Thank you, Mayor. Just like to start by mentioning and acknowledging the luncheon this past Saturday that was held to honor Reverend Michael Gerald of the Shiloh Baptist Church, who has provided not only the Shiloh community with his expertise, but also in doing that, he's also enriched the Tuckahoe community as a whole. So I just want to acknowledge and congratulate him and his family for 5 years of service to Tuckahoe. The History Committee has been very busy conducting outreach programs with such organizations as the Lions Club, the Rotary Club, the Tuckahoe Seniors, the Fountains, and they even took the group of Eastchester High School teachers on a trolley tour of Tuckahoe, as well as a tour of the Mini Marble Museum located here on the second floor in Village Hall. Plans are underway for an open house on Saturday, October 14th for a tour of the museum, and there will be several PowerPoint presentations by Nick Zanzano. Of course, I will keep the residents informed of this as we get closer to that date. And as always, we encourage residents and former residents to add to the archives of the Tuckahoe History Committee. They meet here every Tuesday from 9 a.m. until 12. The Tuckahoe seniors, speaking of Nick Zanzano, will be, will have a presentation this Thursday at the Tuckahoe Community Center, Senior Center. It's going to be a pre-urban renewal of Tuckahoe from the 50s through the 60s. And I have to tell you, Mr. Zanzano has amassed a tremendous collection of photographs of Tuckahoe. Then, this is another interesting trip the seniors will be undertaking on May 16th. They're going down to Arthur Avenue to not only explore, but also to shop the many and varied Italian stores that are down there. And they'll culminate that day with a lunch at everybody's favorite, the Pine Restaurant on Bronxdale Avenue. Memorial Day will be celebrated by the seniors on May 25th with a picnic, and of course, Jenny Angelo is well known for her tube steaks, and they will be served that day as well. That's all I have, Mayor.
That's a lot of action going
Yep.
on there, that's for sure. Trustee Leo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As usual, the library has quite a few programs this month. They have Children's Spring Craft. That will take place on Tuesday, May 9th at 4 p.m. It's open to children from ages 5 to 10 years old, and registration is required. Puzzles in the Library, and that will take place on May 16th at 4 p.m., and it's open to children from ages 3 to 6 years old. Again, registration is required. Legos in the Library, and that will take place on May 24th at 4 p.m., and it's open to children of ages 4 to 10 years old. And again, registration is required. There's a journal writing workshop, and that will take place on Monday, May 15th at 2 p.m., and again, registration is required. The Tuckahoe Library presents Lighthouses on the Hudson Part 2, and that will take place on Tuesday, May 16th at 2 p.m., and please call the library to register as well. Another program is Know the 10 Signs of Early Detection Matters. It's a workshop presented by the Alzheimer's Association, and that will take place on Friday, May 19th from 2 to 3 p.m. Please call the library to register. And then there's the teen programs, Crafting Beading Earrings, a workshop for teens and tweens. That will take place on Wednesday, May 5th, I'm that's wrong. Choosing a Career, a series of for parents and teens, how to become a teacher. And that will take place on Wednesday, May 10th from 4 to 5:30. Origami Paper Crafts for Teens, that will take place on May 17th from 4 to 5 p.m. And Teen Yoga with Miss Peggy, that will take place on May 17th at 7:15 p.m. And that's it, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Trustee Alfasi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was Trustee Danielle Nealis. She came and gave us a briefing this evening about what's happening in Tuckahoe schools. So you know a vote is coming up, so please get out there and vote. That's all I had, but I had one other additional thing. I just wanted to congratulate publicly our own Tuckahoe cheerleaders winning a world championship. They're having we're having a parade May 20th, right? In honor of them, and please everyone get out there. And I'm congratulating them today because I won't be able to be there. I was asked to give a keynote speech at the Armed Forces Day celebration in Fishkill, and I accepted proudly. So I just wanted to extend my congratulations to the Tuckahoe cheerleaders, their parents, and everyone involved.
Thank you. I have a couple of things to talk about. First is we had a community meeting at the Triangle Place Park. And one of the topics of conversation we had there was parking on that's going to be the east side of the park. And we had some residents who actually signed a petition saying they would like it. Some said they would not like it. So what did occur, thank you very much to Trustee Antonio Leo, did a great job in superimposing what a couple of cars being parked on that side of the park would look like. and the police department has sent out, hand-delivered, a notice to all the residents around there, kind of with this picture to say, you know what do you think? Do you think it would be good to have some of these parking spots in your neighborhood or not? So we'll hopefully have the results are going to be discussed at our next month's board meeting. So I want to talk about the Memorial Day ceremony, which is going to be this year. There will not be a parade. There's going to be a ceremony on Sunday, May 28th at 7 o'clock in the Eastchester High School auditorium. They did this last year. It actually turned out wonderful. They had quite a bit of participation there, and they decided they were going to go ahead and move forward. They have a committee that was established after last year, and they decided that this is the way to go. Weather certainly doesn't affect it, and they can schedule a very nice program that they have set up. So again, that's Sunday, May 28th, 7 o'clock in the Eastchester High School auditorium. At our budget meeting, I discussed the possibility of us considering going out and actually borrowing possibly $1 million to go ahead and pave streets in the village of Tuckahoe. Turns out that we actually have a very low ratio of borrowed money, and this is possibly a good time to go ahead and borrow money. So we've asked our Department of Public Works Commissioner, Frank DeMarco, to go ahead and kind of show us what $1 million of street paving would get us. Would it knock out all of the level 5 streets, which are the worst? Would it get us into the 4 or 3 categories? So he's actually working on that right now. Something else, a couple of things we're going to be doing this year. Some things are going to be working with our planning department to go ahead and look at some of the changes that we had started to discuss about a year ago. We're going to take action on that this year. Changes to our ordinance. There were some floor area ratio issues that we want to talk about. There's sections on fences that we want to look at. I want to take another look at the sign ordinance that we have. So we're going to be working on some of those things this year. Another thing that we're going to take a look at is the village owns some very small, odd parcels of property that the village doesn't use. They have, there are some areas of property that might be attached to somebody's land that the village doesn't use at all, that the village may try to sell. We may be looking to actually put some of these parcels up at auction to go ahead and get them out of the village's ownership. They would probably benefit maybe an adjacent property owner. And these are not buildable lots. The village doesn't really own much real estate, but they own some of these corner areas that the village has to maintain, and it would be better if maybe a property owner could go ahead and use some of that land if they choose to buy it. We may put them up for auction and nobody actually buys it. So that's something else that we're going to take a look at. Then I'll talk a little bit about, I'm sure some of the people who are here tonight, they're very recognizable faces. I'm sure you're here tonight to talk about the Marbledale Road project. As you see, we do not have our environmental engineers here, so you can come and ask us questions about the environmental aspects of that project. We're not going to answer environmental questions because we're obviously not environmental engineers. We'll do our best to get you answers to your questions. What we can talk about is the TCE issue that ecosystems, the town, for anyone who's watching this for the first time, the town and school district commissioned a private company, Ecosystems, to go ahead and do some air sampling up in and around the Waverly School area. There was one SUMA canister that came back with a higher level of TCE reading than the others did. So what's occurred in the last month or two that we've actually been talking about this? We hired a firm. We hired an environmental firm to go ahead and manage it because obviously the village doesn't have an environmental department within our building department. The environmental firm that we hired has worked. They first contacted the Westchester County Department of Health. That would be the first place you go if you're a small municipality, whether you're Tuckahoe or Eastchester or Bronxville, you go to the county. The county then went and said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and flip this up to the state. So I spoke to, I was on a conference call just this Friday with representatives from the state, and I said, look, where are we with this issue? And they said, you know what, the level is really not it doesn't pose any hazard at all. And they really didn't have a straight answer for us. So we're trying to find out. They said they may push it back down to the county level because it's it's almost a minimal issue for them. So we're doing our best. We're not like I said, we don't have an internal environmental department, but all indications that we understand or that we are told there is no hazard. So, they all said the same thing. They said, look, if the town actually took this test, the testing company, Ecosystems, although the state agency is not saying that they don't believe they're a credible agency, they certainly do. But the bottom line is the test was not a DEC test or a Department of Health test. So I said, all right, so what does that mean? Does that mean that Ecosystems has to go back out there and take another test? Well, the DEC said that they actually have done some air sampling in that neighborhood right around the same time. And I think actually, David, was it right afterwards? So they said we have, they're processing the data. I'm not sure, I don't understand why it takes so long to process that data. So we certainly asked to get that data as quickly as possible so we can go ahead and look at that. We can have our environmental engineering company interpret that data for us so we can understand whether or not there is an issue there. But from what they told us verbally, they said the levels were actually lower than the ones that Ecosystems had. So that's where we're at with the TCE Ecosystems issue. And that's it. So that's going to bring us to the second opportunity to address the board. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening again. Just want to follow up. You had mentioned a few meetings ago that you had a conversation with the health department. There's been an insistence by this board and by the Eastchester board that these VOCs are not coming from the quarry, that they're most likely coming from the businesses bordering Marbledale Road. So you reached out to the health department to have them look through their records to see who's permitted and who might be in violation. Have you gotten any feedback yet from the health department?
Well, you work for the health department, the county health department, so.
But I'm here as a private citizen.
No, okay, no problem. We actually, what we're trying to understand is we've secured all the property folders, so we know what's in their property folder, but we don't have access to spray booths. We've had this conversation that is it a spray booth? We know there is a couple of spray booths, pardon me, in that area. We've had residents, I know Perry was talking about it last month, he said he knows the minute they turn on the spray booth, he smells it, he tastes something. So we're aware of the fact that there's spray booths there. We don't have jurisdiction over that. We're waiting for the county to go ahead and take the lead. I really feel that the county should take the lead on this. Why the county said, you know what, we're going to go ahead and send it to Albany to go ahead and get their interpretation, that's beyond me, actually.
So in the meantime, the county's not taking the lead. The DEC is hunting it back. We're not doing any additional testing. The DEC is indicating that these are not high enough to be concerned about. The environmental lab that did the testing on the Suma canisters indicated that these were levels high enough to be concerned with. So that kind of leaves
Pardon me.
those of us who live in the area, the residents, in a difficult situation here. I think there needs to be continuous testing. One sample here, one sample there does not make a determination that we've had continuous exposure. So I would suggest that we continue to do the same type of air sampling by the same lab so that there is some consistency.
You mean that Ecosystem should be doing more testing?
Whoever's doing it.
Well, that's why I asked the DEC when I was on the phone call with Kevin Carpenter from the DEC, who you know, and he said that they actually did quite a bit of testing. Quite a bit. I can't give a definition of that, but I'm very interested to hear the results of that. He said, the way I understand it, again, I'm not a scientist here, so I'm going to really limit myself to how much I'm going to put my foot in my mouth in trying to explain this. But as best as I understand it, the DEC, they do the air sampling, they look at some test results, they look at it and say, okay, you know what, this is fine, but now we have to have a laboratory go ahead and process it and put it in a printed format that we can actually, or that they can publish, and that we can go ahead and put on our website. So, bottom line is I said, look, I need to understand, do we have, a threat in our community? And they said, as I mentioned last month, he said, absolutely not.
But what's a little difficult to understand is, apples and oranges. If we're using SUMA canisters, then they need to use SUMA canisters. We can't be using camp monitors and using those to compare to the test results that we got with the SUMA canisters. Is the DEC using SUMA canisters or camp monitors to test the air sampling? Because they're you're going to get two separate results.
Not sure. So again, you're
There
asking
needs
some
to be
questions tonight.
consistency.
We'll have to try and get an answer. We'll be taping this, so we'll try to get answers to these questions.
So it's my understanding that these businesses along the Marbledale corridor, if they are permitted, that they are going to be emitting VOCs, and they are permitted to do so. So it's just a question of knowing what they have in their formulary of chemicals that they use on a routine basis. So is that information going to be made available to
Well,
the community?
does the county have that available? I guess I would
I
probably
don't know.
throw it back at you.
I'm not a technician. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a sanitarian. It's not my area. As again, I said, I'm here as a
Right.
as a
No, I know you work for
private
the county,
citizen.
Westchester County Department of Health.
Right, but
I
I'm an
didn't know if you-
administrator. I'm not.
Okay.
I'm not a
Got it.
scientist.
Yep. Okay.
So
So
it
your
would-
question is what is available from, what intelligence?
What information is going to be made available to the public with regards to the
From the
allegations-
Westchester County Health Department?
No, by Eastchester and by Tuckahoe regarding the information coming to them from the health department regarding those businesses and any VOCs that may be getting emitted from those businesses.
Got it.
And what kind of testing is being done by the DEC? Are they using SUMA canisters? Because they claim that they've done testing around the same time that the SUMA canister testing was done. And it should be consistent. The recommendation, my recommendation anyway as a layperson, is it should be consistent testing. So we're comparing the results of similar, methodology.
Did you ask that question when you were at the meeting down at the community center?
I didn't know the DEC was doing any additional.
No, I didn't know if you would ask that same question to
Well,
any
I
of the
think
representatives
a
from
number
the.
of us had some questions
Right.
about using the SUMA canister results and comparing it to.
No, I understand that. I get that. Yep.
Yeah.
I was just curious if you'd asked that question. I didn't know. I mean,
I don't recall. to
okay,
be honest
got
with
it.
you, I don't recall.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. I'm sorry, ma'am. You'll be next.
John Mariani, 8 Henry Street, here in Tuckahoe. I regret that I was not here when, as Mr. Giordano said, you voted on reappointing the person whose name I long ago have forgotten, good reason, to the planning board. A person who has driven a spike into this community, a person who has been more divisive than anyone, and a person whom, from what I can tell, does not have any particular reason to be on the board in terms of her credentials. I don't expect you to justify, since that's a word which you probably believe is loaded. It is voted, it is a fait accompli at this point, but let me take you back to last September, October, when what I think was the largest contingent of Tuckahoe residents to ever be in the community center, when the decision whether or not to approve this hotel, this destructive imposition on Tuckahoe, and at that time 20, 30 people spoke up against it, and what that person said at the end, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is a planning board member here who voted against it later on. She said, we're going to take a 10-minute break, after all, 20, 30 people, and came back and said, we're going to take this into consideration. Mayor Eklund, you said, I think it was last time or the time before that, that our planning board works very, very hard, extremely hard, put in all sorts of hours and time on this issue, which has been facing us for a year now, and which is brought up every single time. I'm going to be hearing from my betters here. And that was countermanded by the other planning board members. Says, no, we didn't. The planning board generally, from what I understand, basically rubber stamps it. Now, you think I'm telling you something that is not true? Go to their minutes. Look at their minutes from their agendas of the Marbledale project and see how much time, how many questions were asked, how much they asked people to come back and come back and come back again for the most divisive thing that's ever faced this community. And she was the head of the planning board. And then let's move forward 6 weeks later when the vote was taken without ever answering one single question that the community presented to her back in September and August when she took the 10-minute break. Not one question, because we asked a lot of questions. Everybody asked questions. What about this? What about that? That person who you have reappointed never answered a single question of the Village of Tuckahoe's residents. And I don't ask you to justify your vote. I would like some kind of explanation as to why this person would be reappointed to a board when simple discretion might have been in order.
Do you have any other questions? I'll get to it. I didn't know if you had multiple. Okay, good. Anne-Marie Charmella sat on this board for over 20 years. And I believe that, you know what, I understand that you're looking at this one application and you're unsatisfied with it. But for 20 years, you haven't been here. She was probably on the board when you were a trustee, too, I'm assuming.
It was 1990s, but perhaps.
So, yeah, because I think 26 years or something. So you probably approved her as a planning board member while you were a village trustee. So, like you've probably felt at that time that she,
No,
you know what?
Don't say that I did, because
Or maybe not. Okay, maybe you voted against her. Yeah, I'm just saying. Okay, you asked a question.
if something had come up like this, and I found that any of the board members had voted the way she did and never answered a question, not one question from the public, do you think I would reappoint her again?
I understand
Me,
you're
you have.
dissatisfied. Okay,
All 5 of you have.
good. Thank you. And I stand by my decision on that. Yes.
You have no
I've-
explanation as to why.
I don't
you
have
did
to
it.
explain to you,
I
but you
know
just
that
said
because
that.
This board never is
Okay.
transparent and never explains anything.
We're not transparent.
to the
Thank you.
people of Tuckahoe.
Got it. Thank you.
Excuse me, does somebody have a copy of the U.S. Constitution I could read for the next 2 hours? Don't just, you have this astonishing ability to just say, I don't want to answer the question, I don't have to answer the question, and that the Village of Tuckahoe, 6 out of 10 of whom did not put you back into office, Mayor, no, we don't even demand. We're just asking questions. You just say, thank you, Mr. Mariani, now sit down and shut up.
No, well,
You're
you
not
said that.
explaining-
I didn't say
you're
that.
not answering me.
Okay, then I will answer you. You asked, am I comfortable, the question should, or am I comfortable and satisfied with my decision of reappointing Ms. Charmella as the planning board member and chairperson? My answer is yes.
On what
Thank
basis?
you. On the basis that I feel that she is competent to go ahead and fulfill the duties of that position.
And she made the right decision. I think this is what we all want to hear is, did she and 2 other members of that committee, having done very, very little work, which contrasts with what you said, they did an enormous amount of work, are you saying that you and every member of this board believes that she, as the head of that planning board, made the right decision?
I'm saying that I appointed her tonight. I'm not going backwards. I'm dealing with.
That's a simple question. Do you think she made the right decision?
I stand by the decision that the zoning board and planning board made with respect to the business that comes before them. First of all, I don't have the benefit, nor did you when you were a village trustee, to go ahead and have any influence, and I make it I am very careful to make sure that I distance myself from any of the business that is on their agenda. And that's for good reason. As you know, legally, you cannot, as a sitting board member, influence a planning board member's decision on.
Point them.
I,
And you said at the last meeting here, you said, thank you, Mr. Mariani. One thing you have said here over the last year is that maybe we should look into changing the rule that we have no autonomy over the planning.
And I agree with that. By the way, I stand by that.
No, hands off, hands off.
That's a separate issue. That's apples and oranges. That,
No, I don't wanna
okay,
go with apples.
okay, got it. Okay, okay. Thank you. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, can we ask this woman to come up?
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, if you just give us your name and address, please.
Epstein, 247 Parkview Avenue.
In Eastchester? Tuckahoe.
It's Yonkers. from-
Yonkers, got it.
Right on the other side.
You live in Yonkers, no problem.
Okay, question about what was brought up about the TCE testing.
Mhm.
I think some good points were made that, unless testing is done simultaneously in the same moment, it's hard to get a clear answer on what lab results mean. Certainly disturbing that what may be considered important enough at a community level, at a local level, may not be significant at a state level. That's disturbing because what happens is we get the ball kicked back and forth, and there is an agreement on what the threshold is on some of these issues, some of these chemicals that are, really being released. So it's disturbing to hear that there's that back and forth, that the DEC can't work more in tandem with somebody who's hired privately. And I don't know if there's any way to address that.
I don't think necessarily that it's not that they couldn't work with them. I think that one of the senses that I got was that the DEC they do testing. When they test, they stand by their data. For them to go ahead and, for lack of a better word, cast an opinion on test results from a entity, from a business who is not the DEC, I think that they have a little difficulty with that. I don't want to put words in their mouth, but that's the sense that I get. So,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
so anyway, I was pleased to hear that they had done their own testing, which they will report on themselves. So I was very happy to hear that.
In a similar fashion, the DEC has responsibility for their own results and stands by them. And then you look at results that were, given to them by the Marbledale Coalition. They can look at them, but they don't have to honor them. I feel that they should, but that's my opinion. But their key responsibility, and I'm talking more in a legal sense, is to be responsible for their own testing, their own set of standards, which is a dilemma for people in the community, certainly, because if people go to the trouble, whether they're private individuals, school districts, the Marbledale Coalition, they are willing to, in a sense, put their money where their mouth is and hire experts. It's unfortunate that we can't get the best set of results. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a combination of factors that leads to that. The other thing I wanted to address is the community environmental meetings
Mhm.
that have been held, and I have participated in several of them.
I watch them all and I see you out them, yes. Mm-hmm.
HES has been basically handling those meetings.
It's their meeting, right.
Mr.
Mhm.
Musso, Mike Musso, and HDR.
He doesn't go, because it's an HES, it's a developers meeting. We told the developer that they needed to bring the information of what's going on the project to the community, so that's,
Then the developers had to be able to, decide who's going to be speaking at those meetings. It's HES that's overseeing from the developer's perspective. Originally, we had hoped, or I had hoped, that the DEC was going to be involved in those meetings. Apparently, they're not directly, and I think that's unfortunate because although HES has been able to answer some concerns about what's been going on site, lots of questions have been asking about why aren't there tarps covering this and that? Why is this exposed? Why are trucks leaving the site in the way that they are without tires being cleaned? They've been able to look at that and talk to the construction people and be able to address some of that. But there are some other broader environmental questions that might have been better answered by a representative of the DEC or HDR, Mike Musa, and I.
May I ask you a question? On that specific point. The DEC works for you and me. So when, well, look, we pay their, we get we pay for that agency in our taxes, obviously, you know that. So my question is that your organization, your group, your coalition, whatever affiliation you have, do you take that to the DEC? In other words, I understand you go to you'll come here and you'll talk to us, and we're not scientists, and we've told you that 100 times. So we're doing the best we can to try and get you the information, to put as much information on our website. You know, we don't want to be adversarial. We want to be as informative as we can. We're doing our best, as well as trying to handle everything else in the village. The developer, we told the developer that there had to be informational meetings for the public, so you can go there and ask the questions of the science and the questions of what is going on, what is the progress, what is the course of action on this construction site. It's now no longer a remediation project. It's it always stays in the remediation world, but it's shifted now out of the remediation elements to it's a construction job, which makes it a little bit more intensive for the village's building department. But where I'm getting with this is that, so you come here and you can talk to us, of course, and ask us questions, and we'll try to get you answers, and we'll post on our website as much of the information or answers that we can. You go to the meetings that the HES puts on, and I watch those meetings. Sometimes they're 2 hours long, and they're very informative. You know, you ask good questions, and you seem to get, it doesn't look like they're, giving you shifty answers, that they're giving you the straight answer. But you talk about, like, the DEC. I'm assuming you don't drive to Albany and sit down with the commissioner of the DEC and ask him. How do you communicate with the DEC? Do you write them a letter? Do you, what do you ask them, and what do you get in response? To me, what's important is, what are you getting in response? I obviously have no idea. So have you done that, I guess, would be my first question. And if you have, are they being responsive to you? Because I need to understand that.
I think that, I can say that at the outset of this project, certainly there was lots of, a direct not letters, phone calls to the DEC by the Marveldale Coalition. I'm not involved in the legal process that's going on, and I don't know how that legal process has changed, what the level of communication might be from various parties, because I think things can get shut down when things are moving through the courts and the justice system and there's a suit involved.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we have found throughout this process is the frustration of different data points, different data sets in terms of what's considered dangerous, what's not. To what degree Mr. Hughes, the information that he certainly provided to Mr. Musso and the DC, the degree to that, which I think it was honored in that it was looked at. I don't know if it was utilized, and I don't know if we can really get an answer to that. Much of what's going on with this project, and even from the legal standpoint, the hope for those of us in the community who are really concerned about safety was to kind of get that addressed before we were in the midst of construction. The more, of course, the more legal proceedings go on, the more everything is already done, and then you can't step back. So I guess my basic concern is I had hoped that the environmental meetings would have incorporated more than just HES. You have clarified to me that it was the developer's responsibility to provide for those meetings.
Well, it was actually a condition of the planning board, so, that's one of the good conditions that the planning board, well, they had a whole laundry list of conditions that were imposed, so that was certainly one of them.
We have often asked at those meetings why we hadn't seen DEC people on site. Sometimes we've been told we were there, we just didn't see them. Often they wear identifying jackets. If somebody from DEC is there, or we have contact and connection, they can verify what days they're there, whether or not they're filling that
Mhm.
responsibility. So it's been hard to get all the information together, and sad that things, have gone on so long that, I'm not sure how far along the project is, but tremendous amount of work has already been done without really being able to know to a certainty that what's been done
Right.
is safe by, in terms of our concerns. Okay, I appreciate your.
Sure, thank you. Thank you. Mhm. Anybody else wish to?
Hi, Jessica Schiaffaletti, 338 Columbus Avenue, Tuckahoe. I just want to let you know I was at the last community meeting, but I don't think it's within the developer's jurisdiction to talk about the testing outside the brownfield. So that's not a question that we
I
can
agree with that, yeah.
ask, because I know
Yep.
you mentioned that to Maria, but that's not something that they could answer. So I think the thing is, people don't know who to ask. So perhaps.
Oh, you mean that whole TCE issue?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I know that they were testing other areas, and I don't know if they're continuing testing or if they've stopped testing already, but if you don't have the answers, maybe there's someone that could provide answers at the next meeting. Maybe we can invite the DEC or DOH to one of the meetings like you did in the past.
What our goal is to clearly, the frustration that I have is, and I've said this very candidly, I must say twice now on 2 conference calls that I've had with the state DEC is, separate this whole issue. This, for me, was an eye-opener. Let's just take an entirely different issue. Let's say, and I said, what if there was some kind of a hazard that occurred at the Tuckahoe train station or in my backyard up on the other end of the village? What does the mayor of Tuckahoe do? What is the process? What's the protocol here? And you know what? To me, it's very frustrating I'm first told, okay, well, you start in Tuckahoe. You give it to your Village of Tuckahoe Building Department Air Quality Environmental Team. Well, obviously, we don't have that, okay? So since you don't have that, if you're a small municipality, where do you go? You go to the Westchester County Health Department. So we hire somebody because we're not going to be able to, this is part-time service, obviously. So we're going to go ahead and we have to hire a firm because we don't have an in-house environmental department. So we have to go ahead and first of all start spending your and my money to go ahead and hire, which is fine, okay? We hire the environmental business to go ahead and figure this out, what's going on here. They're frustrated as I am. They go ahead and contact the Westchester County Department of Health. It's like I feel it's like a pinball game. It kept kicked up to Albany, and they're like, well, you know what? We kind of think maybe this is really a non-issue. This is a nothing issue. It should be, I'm putting words in their mouth. Let me not say nothing issue. It's a minimal issue. It should, why is it here? Well, I don't know why it's there. I know it's not, we don't have an agency in-house to go ahead and handle it. So I have a considerable amount of frustration, and they have now heard from me twice that I feel that we just need to know, I just need to go ahead and have a phone number and a name and phone number of somebody that I can call, and then everyone in this room can call and say, you know what, what's going on? What's the process? What's the status? I don't have that phone. I don't have that name or phone number. And that to me is very, very frustrating. Obviously, it's not a name or phone number within the village of Tuckahoe, within this building or within this, within the village government. And I'm quite frustrated that I don't have that name and contact person who is the lead person who's managing this issue. Be it this matter that a private company came up with a test result, I just want to know what we're supposed to do if there was some catastrophic issue. That to me is frustrating, but we're working on it. So anyway, I hope that answered your question. Maybe it did or didn't. I don't know.
Well, not really.
Okay.
Because I don't think the DEC can think that this is a small issue when they're doing testing on the indoor air quality of people's homes on the ridge, and then they're testing towards Waverly. So it just seems odd to me that we don't have that information. And I think the person that holds more clout than Me calling the DEC is you, as the mayor of Tuckahoe, asking what's going on, or asking them to be here, or the DOH to be here, to kind of let the residents know what those results are and why they think it's not a big issue. Because then
Well,
I
they
think
did say
that
they'll
just-
give us the results, so that I'm waiting on. That's the next step that I'm waiting on, are the results of the testing that they have done in that area. Here again, they're not going to comment, or they don't want to comment on test results from a non-DEC entity. Ecosystems, you know.
And is Ecosystems the company that you hired?
No,
or
that's
is
the
it
company
HDR
that,
that's who's handling the-
HDR works for the Village of Tuckahoe.
Yes, I know that, but I mean-
Ecosystems works for the town of Eastchester, the
Yes,
Eastchester School Board.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I just mean, you mentioned that you engaged someone else to. regarding-
HDR, no,
It's HDR
yeah,
completely
yep.
for everything.
It's,
even for
different
beyond.
division is their air monitoring, it's like a whole new job. In other words, it's not part of the HDR handling, working for the village on the Brownfield site. It's a different person, but we use that firm.
So is
That's it.
HDR going to be here at one of the next meetings to talk about what the information?
They couldn't be here tonight. We tried to get them, actually, they had a conflict. We had originally had them scheduled to be here. They couldn't be here tonight, so, like I said, they didn't really have any information that they could, I think that we're probably explaining it as best as, well, no, they can always explain it better, but we're doing our best to give you the explanation we can. Clearly, I expect to have at our next meetings a little bit more concrete information on, where this is going, the direction it's heading.
Okay.
Ms. Chiafolletti, if I may, I share your concern and sentiment. I think that, and the mayor and I have spoken, and my colleagues and I have spoken, and I'll share my sentiment, and only my sentiment. I think the answer from the DEC is not sufficient right now. I am waiting, anxiously waiting for their results, because they did do testing after HES did their testing. So I'm anxiously waiting for that.
Ecosystems. I know
Ecosystems, I'm
there's so many
sorry.
different-
I'm sorry. Ecosystems, Paul. So I'm anxiously waiting that, but I think right now their answer is unsatisfactory, although they have told us, or told the mayor, that the levels were of not an immediate concern, immediately hazardous concern, so to speak. It's just unsatisfactory right now. So I'm waiting for their results.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
My name's Kate Weiss. I live in Channing Place in Eastchester. I'm a concerned parent, a concerned community member, and I'm concerned about the test results from Paul Simonello's testing, and also about the test results from Minich and Scotto's testing. I think that we can all agree without question that there are toxic vapors being released into the air. Whether it's immediately concerning, define immediately, I'm not exactly sure. I think we just, these undefined broad terms that kind of calm us, I'm concerned, especially after the last meeting, when the testing conducted by Minich and Scotto was repeatedly discredited, and then I can add during this meeting when Paul Simonello's testing has now been discredited. Minich and Scotto's testing was conducted using a cross-sector averaging technique. Mr. Leo casually discredited this method, and it was further discussed by Mr. Alfasi. Mr. Alfasi stated that other experts basically said that they'd never heard of this cross-sector averaging technique, including Mr. Leach. I don't know if that was the correct name. I couldn't hear it. There was no microphone at the time. And Dave Canavan. Mr. Alfasi stated that he spoke to Mr. Mike Davis, the chief of sampling for Region 7, and that nobody at Region 7 had ever heard of this technique except for Mr. Mike Davis. Mr. Alfasi stated that Mr. Davis stated, if you can follow that, that nobody uses or endorses this technique. I had the pleasure of speaking with Mr. Davis, and we emailed back and forth, and he denied this in writing. I asked, would you say that nobody uses or endorses this cross-sector averaging technique? He responded, no. He responded further that this method is typically incorporated to estimate plume concentrations using optical remote sensing techniques, which average plume concentration across the entire monitoring path. Let me continue from his email because it was too much for me to write. A similar approach, however, is to walk an evacuated suma canister back and forth along a predetermined path length while observing local meteorological conditions and applying the data toward the cross-sector averaging technique. He hasn't seen this approach used in years, but it is still applicable. Plume width is a major assumption and will definitely be affected by the existing meteorological conditions at the time that sampling is performed. You also stated that this method has not been published. I have an email stating 2 publications that Mr. Davis included in his email to me, which discuss this method and its validity. What I cannot understand is why my response from Mr. Davis differs so greatly from your response, Mr. Alfasi. Additionally, when I expressed what was stated at the meeting, Mr. Davis, the last board meeting, stated that he was disappointed to hear how his conversation had been characterized. Mr. Davis further stated that regardless of the method used, the TEC did not just jump in. These results attained by Minich and Scotto should be considered as evidence. This is someone from the DEC who stated this. And Mr. Eklund, I believe you said that the DEC's testing just recently stands by its own data, and to cast an opinion on test results from outside businesses that they might have a problem doing this. I don't know. Is it just the DEC that's in our district? I'm not sure what's going on here, to be honest with you. And it's extremely unsettling. It's extremely concerning. I've pulled my child from Waverly. I'm paying high taxes, and I'm not paying for private school. There's high levels of TECE that have been found at the base of Hall Avenue, which is just down the road from my son's school. And it's not immediately concerning. What does that mean? And I don't even know. I have so many questions. I can't even begin I don't know where to begin.
Can I address some of your questions?
I hope so.
I will. The cross-section monitoring method that's used with FTIR, is that correct? I mean, is that what Mr. Davis explained?
He explained, I sent him the report, and he responded that it's not.
Because I agree, it is used with FTIR.
No, it's used with suma canisters.
It's suma canisters.
It's used with FTIR. However, sir, I'm speaking with her. You can get up. You can get up and speak.
He said suma canister, back and forth along a predetermined path length. I have it in writing.
Okay, then I'll speak with Mr. Davis and give you my report after I speak with him.
In writing?
It'll be right here. It'll be
It'll
taped.
be his emailed response to your questions?
It'll be taped.
Okay. So that's not really an answer to my question.
Well, I don't understand. What is your question? Let me try to give an answer.
I think it's why your response from Mike Davis was so different from my response from Mike Davis. And I'm a private citizen where the mayor has had 2 conversations with the DEC. I work a full-time job. I'm a parent. I am not on a board. I don't have time to be on a board. And I've had several conversations with the DEC. It's ridiculous how little this board is doing, and how these concerns and these things are being bounced from one agency to this agency, and nothing has been done from last meeting to this meeting. There's no new results. There's no new information. What are you doing?
Your question about the TCE, which I'll explain again. The TCE report that Ecosystems gave, the high level, or the high level that he reported at the bottom of Fall Avenue, which we hired a firm. You're asking what we're doing, so I'm going to give you an answer to that question. We went and hired a firm who had a discussion with Westchester County Department of Health, who has had conversations with the New York State DEC and Department of Health. I don't have, as I said, just said 10 minutes ago, I don't have a clear understanding as to who the lead agency is going to be on this, whether it's going to, okay,
This point in
I'm
the
sorry.
project.
Yep, okay.
We should have a clear understanding of who the lead agency is.
I explained it as best as I can, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry that you cannot explain it any further.
Okay,
And it's extremely frustrating and extremely disappointing.
thank you.
I don't know what this is going to do, but I'll submit this as evidence.
Yeah, well,
the
you can
record?
submit it to the clerk
I don't
over
know
here.
where this is going to go because nothing has.
You know, really, the snide remarks are totally unnecessary. Okay, well, let me say this. Please let me say this. Every lead agency, every highest ranking authority in the state of New York has not issued a warning about this project, whether it be an independent firm such as HDR or Ecosystems working in conjunction with the DEC and the Department of Health. Test after test after test has been done. Information's been placed on our website. And yet, there is still this persistence that we're lying, that we're making this up, that we're in cahoots. And it's totally unfair. I mean, who do you want to say is the lead agency other than the DEC? There's wait, let me finish. There was information that was sent to the EPA that came back and said their response to the information that was sent to the EPA through Elliot Engel's office, I have it right here in my briefcase, they said what DEC is doing, in essence, what the EPA response was, the DEC is doing their job. There is nothing for them to do, EPA.
And Greg, just to be, Greg's talking about the BCP site, not the
Right.
Seminole TCE
Correct.
issue. So just,
Well,
okay.
we don't know if those are disconnected or connected at this point because all of the additional testing or, we have files, but we have no further information about spray booths or whatever. We have no further information about that. And it's really concerning that at two different points in time, you have a level of 12 micrograms per cubic meter and 14 micrograms per cubic meter at the same site in a 2-week span, when it is my understanding that work was not being done at the time this testing was conducted by Paul Simonello's firm. And these are really high levels. When the DEC, I believe their accepted level is 2 micrograms per cubic meter, and that's for a short term.
But do we agree that Paul Simonello also said he doesn't know where that TCE is coming from?
Regardless, I agree.
Okay.
And regardless,
It could be coming from the Safeway cleaner that's right adjacent to the school.
that we don't know where it's coming from, but it's a concerning number.
Or it turns out now could
And we
have come
need to
from the
figure out
storm
where
drain that was directly underneath that canister, and some constituent that came in. We don't know. We're
We don't know.
Look, we just don't know.
But it's my understanding that there is nothing stopping you as a town board from taking active measures to protect the community.
We are.
It's I don't hear it being done.
Oh,
I
I know
don't hear it being done.
you're not satisfied. I understand.
I'm not
that.
satisfied.
Okay.
We agree that there are high levels of, I don't know if you agree at this point that there's high levels of toxicity. 12 micrograms per cubic meter and 14 micrograms per cubic meter just of that one chemical that we've been talking about is high. And we must demand SUMA canister monitoring and real vapor filtration. We really need more protection. We have to protect this community. We are not being protected right now. And this, it's not an immediate concern. Define immediate. What does immediate mean? Is immediate another year? Is immediate when this project is done? Is immediate when these children at this school start coming down with leukemia? I don't know. I don't know what immediate is. Do you know?
No, you would have to ask the DEC that same question, which I've asked, which is, do we have a hazardous condition here? Answer is no. That's what I'm told. I don't know how, any other way I can explain it.
Have you spoken to a toxicologist?
I've talked to, the only people I've talked to is the village's environmental engineering, air monitoring firm, who has talked to the county Department of Health. I'm not sure what those conversations were about, as well as the State Department of Health and State DEC. Again, I'm not going to get in it back and forth on any environmental science aspect of this. You may be an environmental scientist. I certainly am not. I've said many times over, I'm not. So that's okay. Thank you. Anybody else? And your address, please. I know you come every month, but got it. Hold on. She might have hit the button off. You want to take this one?
This thing on? Yep. All right. I'd like to ask if anyone on the board is maybe a minor historian. I have a quote for you from a historical figure of the past. If you tell a lie loud enough and long enough, the people will believe it. Is anyone familiar with that one? That's Adolf Hitler. Okay? Yeah. The Nazis used lies to promote their agenda, similar to what's going on in Tuckahoe. The lie that Mr. Alfasi presented to us all last month when he proclaimed, I made a phone call, was yet another in a series of lies that have come from everyone associated with this project. And what we've learned, beyond the shadow of a doubt, from especially last month's meeting, is the village board has put the developer ahead of the community. As Mr. Alfasi gave his report, I was a little taken back by it. It's rare that any of you actually make statements like that. Unless, of course, it's to disprove or discredit something the public has brought to the board's attention. It is incredibly concerning to me that everything about this project has been a lie. Everything that comes from the developer and everything that comes from the village board. Blatant lies. Mr. Alfasi, the data does not lie. Numbers don't lie. Only people lie. Lawyers and politicians lie. And Mr. Alfasi, you're both.
Sir,
Mr. Mayor.
let me interrupt you for a second, because you just called me a liar.
You
You just said I lied.
represented what that rep from the EPA told you.
That's not true.
Kate Weiss just explained it to all of us.
That's
I
not
was in the
true.
room. I heard it.
I heard it too.
email.
Mr. Rabius, I heard it too. Okay, I'd like to read the email. I'd like to see the data. As I told you, I had a conversation with Mr. Davis. I expressed that conversation to the best of my ability, and I don't retract anything. I don't retract anything. So you're saying that I lied. Sir, I didn't lie. Okay, if we have a difference of understanding of what Mr. Davis and I spoke about, we'll get to the
Fake news, as that one statement in the email.
we'll get to the bottom of it. We'll get to the bottom of it.
Into the can. It's in there
Sir,
for a reason.
Sir, and even when we spoke last meeting, I said I didn't deny that, did I? I didn't deny that it was in the can.
You misrepresented what he told you.
Sir, you didn't have
That becomes
Sir,
clear
you
after
didn't have
Kate Weiss speaks.
Can I finish? Sir, you didn't have the conversation with Mr. Davis. Okay? You did not. So don't say I misrepresented it. Of course I didn't misrepresent it.
He
And
stated-
by the way,
stated that
let
in
me
an earlier
finish.
conversation.
Let me finish. And by the way, there is a cross-sector monitoring, out, whatever we want to call it. But I was talking about a modified one in Mr. Minich's statement, and it's in his affidavit. Did you read his affidavit?
No, it's way long.
In the affidavit, it talks about a modified cross-sector averaging technique. That's his technique, not the cross-section averaging technique, but his modified technique.
The TCE didn't jump in the can.
And the TCE has been taken on. Listen, I'm not going to argue this. I'm not.
Alternative method is
I'm
what
going.
we
I'm
look
going
at,
to. I'm going to look. I'm going to look
which
at
is
the.
exactly what we did.
I'm
I
going
did
to
it
look at the
myself
data.
with the Suma canister in a backpack. I did it myself. I was there.
I'm
And
going
this
to look at the
TCE
data.
coming from the site.
Okay.
That is what that test clearly presented.
I'm not even going to comment anymore. I'll look at your data. I'll be happy to. Thank you.
That warms my heart. Mr. Mayor, after Mr. Alfasi's lies, you followed with rattling off the names of the people on the Article 78 lawsuit. You then directly quoted the attorney for the developer and stated that these people are only working to disrupt this project. You've got to be kidding me. Why would you come here to our village meeting and repeat anything that skank has to say? She cares about one thing and one thing only, getting this project done. She does not care about one soul in this community. What you did was irresponsible, unprofessional, disgusting, and childish. You should be embarrassed. It is quite sad that you people are the public officials tasked with the community's safety. And yes, Mr. Mayor, your actions prove again, beyond the shadow of a doubt, that your number one priority is the developer and that the community comes way after that. We deserve so much better than that. What we have been doing couldn't be more right. This is an affluent community where we pay a lot in taxes with the belief that it comes with living in a better place. You have attempted to characterize a group of concerned citizens with a goal of simply disruptive. To be disruptive. That's pathetic. All we have done is follow this project in an effort to advocate for ourselves, our neighbors, and schools full of children. That's it. Now, in a classic Tuckahoe Village Board fashion, you will follow the lead of the developer yet again with yet another classic, the diversionary tactic. You will find it in books like The Art of War, and as you would imagine, in multiple law textbooks. Anything to distract and confuse attention from the truth. Testing was done in the fall of 2016 by the DEC that was advocated for by the Marbledale Road Coalition. And it concluded that exceedingly high levels of chemicals are on the site, which include TCE and PERC, among others. Additional testing also conducted by the DEC, again at the urging of the Marbledale Coalition, at off-site locations, found the same chemicals have migrated underground and have been found on the ridge to the west on Verde and on the ridge to the east on Hall. It is a joke to imply that the chemicals are coming from another source. But again, in classic Tuckahoe Village Board fashion, you've gotten behind the developer and anything that they say, and backed anything they say, instead of standing up for the people in the community. Thank you very much. Anybody else? Mr. Marinello, yes.
I don't know where to begin. I really don't. Very hard to say you're dishonest people sitting up there. I don't like to do that. I would never do that. I'm not God. But I'll tell you this, Mayor. People are going to get sick. Very sick. Very, very, very sick. We're not blaming you, at least I'm not. I don't think you've been told the truth. You're just not told the truth. You got to believe what they tell you, like we have to believe what you tell us. And it doesn't work that way. I asked you, and I asked the other members of the board to get a special prosecutor on this case. Have an outside firm come in and check all this material and all this garbage out. See who's lying. I'll bet there's a lot of people holding back on you. A lot of people. You know, Mayor, you make it sound so easy. You keep telling people, and you've been doing it for over a year. You should be talking to the developer. Well, why don't you get the developer down here so we can talk to him? You should be talking to the DEC. Get the DEC down here so we can talk to them. You're not doing it. You're elected officials. You're the elected officials. That's your job. If you don't want to do it, step down. Steve, I'm talking to you directly.
I'm listening.
You got to take this, and you got to get to the right people. Don't keep telling us that we got to talk to the developer, we got to talk to the DEC. They don't respond. Do you understand? They do not respond. And it's not right. It's not right. They did that in Flint, Michigan. They were all telling the truth. Now they're all in jail. They're all in jail. Like the three amigos up in the state of New York. Two of them are in jail, but we still have another one. We don't know what's going to happen to him. But all his sidekicks, they're all going in jail. Do me a favor. Don't let them bury you like you're being buried. They're lying. They're absolutely lying to you.
The DEC, you mean?
The DEC, HDR, all of them. They're all in cahoots. You heard that young lady.
So who's telling the truth?
Who's telling the truth?
Yeah.
That is a good question, Ray. That is a good question.
Thank you.
A good question. Believe me, that's a good question. I would like to know myself. I really would.
So this collection of experts that we have, that the Village hired, Eastchester hired, Bronxville hired, none of them are telling us the truth.
I don't think Paul, as I said here at the last meeting, I don't think Paul's a dishonest man. No. No, he's not a dishonest man. HDR is working with this developer. I went to the last meeting. And who do you think is there? Bill Canahan is not there. HDR is not there. That's who we had. We had the biggest liar I ever met in my life. The attorney representing this developer. Oh, that was a joke. A joke. She lied from day one right in this room when she said the DEC could not handle a situation like this developer could. The DEC actually went to it, and he said to her on tape, play the tape, that she was lying. I don't like to see you getting beat up like you guys are getting
You're
beat
not
up.
getting beat up, Joe.
Well, you are.
It's all right.
If you don't think you are, or you could, or you don't. You
No,
don't
Joe.
feel like it.
Joe, please, come on.
Let
It's-
me ask
it
you
goes with the territory.
Go ahead. What do you want to tell me?
I'm just saying that this is
Okay.
goes with the territory.
I think you're getting beat up. I'm sorry you don't think so. I really am. You are definitely getting beat up because you're not responding to the community. You're not responding to the community. David, I'd like to address you on a situation when you had the goal to say $33 is what I would have gotten if you were under the cap last year. That was a total lie. Well, let me tell you, let me finish, David. I spoke to the controller's office and I also spoke to the tax office. They're working on the situation. And here's what I found out, David. The village of Tuckahoe did not get a budget under the cap for 5 years. This is their first year, and we're in our sixth. So this year, the taxpayers of this village will see some money coming to them. Now, those past 5 years, what do you think? I'm not sure on that one. You might be right. And I
Oh,
might
we're
be
very sure on that. Yeah.
But in any event, in the 5 years that we lost, according to the figures I got, and they're still working on it, so I don't want to tell you exactly, but they told me it was over $1,800 for those 5 years. Now, you can argue that if you want, but we'll wait until they get that report, and then we'll go over it. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
did you read today's paper?
Which one? The Journal News?
Journal.
I get the online edition. Well, ask me this particular article I'm sure you were
Right.
referencing.
Okay, they
Was it
had
about
a
that
headline.
hotel, the one in,
It's on the front page.
yeah, the old,
They had a
yep.
headline that they're going to build an 18-story,
Yeah.
18-story hotel in a stamp building on Central Avenue, which is only 2 blocks from the casino.
Mhm.
Then, when the reporter spoke to a spokesperson from the casino, they're going to maybe build 2 more on their property. So, a year and a half ago when I came up and I told you I had heard rumors about you being pushed on this project because of the casino,
Well, first
you
of all,
you
Can I-
looked in, well, let me finish.
okay, sorry.
You looked into it.
Yes, thank you.
You sure did look into it, and you got to respond,
Yep.
and you read it here publicly.
And it's on our website, too.
Right. So now what does that tell you about what you got from the state of New York, from the person who should know everything about what's going on? We're going to have an 18-story new hotel, okay, 2 blocks.
Right, the question was, at the time, in order for the Empire City Casino to get a full gaming license, that they would need to have a certain quantity of rooms. That was the question. That was the question that I posed to the Commissioner of Gaming in Albany, and the response that I got was, no.
Well, in any event, we got an 18-story hotel. Casino's response to the reporter was they're considering 2 more hotels on their own 300 acres. So I was right. I was right. I was right when I first told you that was the rumor I heard. And it was true. Now, I'm convinced with an 18-story hotel, 2 blocks from the casino. It's amazing. It's amazing how you get information. And that came from a reliable source, a good friend of mine, who's now retired from the publishing business. I believed him when he told me then. And I believe him now even more. The last meeting, we were told, with the developer, with the kid,
At the
Bill
last
Company?
Wednesday meeting at the community center?
Not the community meeting.
Got it. Okay.
I was told, everyone else was told that they took a radar picture of the bottom of that site where they're gonna start the 200 pilings. So if you wouldn't mind, because nobody had the answer, can you follow up on what they found, what they seen? Because here's my concern. My concern is that when those 200 pilings go into the ground, you're going to have an emergency. You're going to have a catastrophe. Those vapors are going to come out like you never would believe. I know it was dumped in that damn quarry. I watched them for years. And when they hit those pools with those chemicals from Burroughs Welcome and et cetera down there, we're going to have a problem in this village. And somebody's got to be held responsible. I know how frustrated you are with the DEC and all the calls you make, the DOH and everything. You don't get any response from them. Do you think we get anything better? We're not even an elected official. Last thing I want to say to you and the board, I want to protect my beautiful granddaughter. I want to protect her even if it takes my life to do it. I'm asking you here at this podium to get Bill and whoever else you have to get those monitors up at the Immaculate Conception. Get them up there now. You got 800 kids up there. We know we got a lot in Waverly, but you got 800 up there, and one of them is my granddaughter. I want to make sure they don't get hurt, and I want to make sure they don't get ill. I'm telling you, when those pilings start, be aware, because they're not telling you the truth. No one's telling you the truth. And it's time to stand up, Mayor. It is time to stand up and tell them that you're not going to take it any longer. Don't be like Flint. Don't be like those other areas that just believed that everything they said to them. Because I don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Anybody else wish to? Yes, Mr. Giordano, we always wrap it up with you, it seems.
Mike Giordano, 62 Chestnut Street, Tuckahoe. I want to read something, and I have several questions for you. Hopefully you'll be able to answer. This is from the Remedial Action Work Plan, page 37. Now, the first question I have, and I just want to make sure I get this right, because I do not want to say something false, but the plan that was passed, from the village standpoint of what kind of jurisdiction we have over that plan, falls under the purview of the building inspector, correct? And HDR sort of overseeing the follow-through of that plan. Is that correct? I just want to make sure that's...
I don't have it here, Mike. Come on, you can't. I don't memorize it.
No, but no, my point is that I believe that's the case. I believe that like the last line of defense is our building inspector and HDR to make sure the plan is being followed, the remedial action work plan.
Yeah, Mike, I think it's the DEC's plan. It's a brownfield program. It's their program, but I think the planning board resolution put those protections in there that, you know, yes, backup. Well, Mr. Williams has to, the construction and all the permits, he has to issue those permits. And I think the planning board resolution that said that HDR would be also looking at that material and advise Mr. Williams, because I don't think Mr. Williams is an environmental expert, so.
And ultimately the DEC, correct?
The DEC, number one, it's their program.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, so let me read this to you. This is from page 37 of the Remedial Action Work Plan, and I'm only going to focus on a small bit of stuff tonight because there's a lot of other things that have been said, and I'm going to focus on facts. Stockpiles will be routinely inspected and damaged tarp covers will be promptly replaced. The stockpiled, and stockpiled is the piles of dirt, just for clarification for everyone. will be placed on top of and completely covered using polyethylene sheeting with a minimum thickness of 8 milliliters to reduce the infiltration of precipitation and the entrainment of dust. That's a new word, entrainment. The stockpile area shall be protected from stormwater runoff. Edges of the sheeting shall overlap a minimum of 2 feet, and duct tape shall be applied along all seams to prevent movement of sheeting and infiltration of precipitation into the stockpiled soil. Non-soil weights may be necessary to inhibit movement for the covering of the sheeting by the wind, rocks, tires, things like that. Soil stockpiles will be continuously encircled with a burn or a silt fence. The burn wall shall be constructed around the stockpile using uncontaminated material covered with the same sheeting as the stockpiled material. Hay bales will be used as needed near catch basins, surface waters, and other discharge points. So, my question is, 2 questions I have. One is, since our last meeting, did you do any investigation on what I'd given you, the pictures and whatnot, and have you found any violations since then? That's one. And 2 is, David, I'm wondering, had you had a chance or have you looked up the pictures that I gave you regarding the barrels outside of, they were there. And my question was to you, you've talked to the DC about this? Okay, and he didn't say anything. Well, I know that they are using them because they painted over the logo, and they're using them on the site.
I think they're using them for garbage. We did it, so I'll kind of jump in here. We did a site visit. We did actually a surprise inspection, and I heard that Trustee Alfasi did one before we did there. But I went down there with Antonio, what was that, 2 weeks ago? Or week? Yeah, 2 weeks ago. So we did an unannounced site inspection, which was interesting. We were there for a couple hours. I don't know if you were there. There seems to be people videotaping everything that's going on there. So we were down there for a couple hours. We brought down David Burke. We were down there with Frank DeMarco, a building inspector, a code enforcement guy. So totally unannounced. Saw the stockpiles of dirt. I asked him about those canisters, and he said, yeah, they're garbage cans now. He said they're empty, and we're using them for, their lunch or whatever. They're garbage cans. I said, okay. We looked at the trucks coming in, the plastic that they had. We talked about the photographs that you gave us. One of the big questions I had was they had a giant mountain of dirt in the back there. And I said, okay, so is this contaminated soil? Answer is no. That's actually clean fill that they're going to redistribute, I guess, once they start digging areas out or compacting the property down. He had mentioned the guy, I guess you know the guy, the stocky guy. What's his name?
Just call him Mr. Peak.
Yeah, Ron, thank you. Okay, yeah, Ron. He said that, of course, they're mindful of they have to keep dust. They have to maintain dust on any construction site. Forget whether it's a brownfield or was /is a brownfield cleanup site. Any construction site, they have to monitor dust. That's an ordinance that's a provision in every ordinance on any construction site. So I said, all right, let's talk about the trucks. I was kind of taken back as to how many people they had there. There was a woman, you probably see that lady with the long gray hair. And so I'm like, all right, what's her job? So her job is to check in the trucks, and she's there. She was taking pictures of the tires of the trucks when they came in, when they were going out. So I guess I was a little, you brought up a lot of things. We saw a lot of things that were being taken care of. Clearly, you showed us photographs of areas where the tarps were missing. We raised that as a serious concern to them. I guess to answer your question, have we followed up? Have we been there? Yes. Excuse me, sir. Excuse me. Thank you.
Well, the reason I ask that and say that is, just so you know, I have been around the site. I just want to give you the dates: April 15th, 16th, 17th, 20th, 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 25th, 27th, 28th, 29th, May 4th, 5th, and 7th. And every single day that I was on the site, the duct tape has never been used. Okay? Now, if it's in the remedial action work plan, is that just a suggestion, or is it something they're supposed to do? The duct tape's never been used. As a matter of fact, the duct tape hasn't been used ever since they started the project, ever.
And that would be to seam it, I guess, to hold two pieces together.
Oh, yeah.
Right,
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely. But it's never been used. It hasn't been used once. It hasn't, I mean, I've been on the site since this, a long time. And I've watched those plastic sheets, and they have never used duct tape. Now, I know Mr. Weinberg I wasn't able to go to the last community meeting, said he was losing $5 million on the job, so maybe he can't afford the duct tape. But the point is that it's in the remedial action work plan. In addition to that, the burn and silt fencing, never been done. I've never seen it been done on any stockpiled soil, ever. I haven't. I mean, I have pictures going all the way back, not every day, but every time I've ever been on the site, I've never seen it. As a matter of fact, I have pictures from this weekend, Friday. There's some stockpiled soil. Now, it may or may not be contaminated. I don't know.
That is clean fill. That is clean fill, because when we went to the site, we actually asked about the stockpiles in the back portion of the site, and that is in fact clean fill.
That's clean fill.
Correct. When we were on site, I want to say 2 weeks ago, we met with Ron, and he kind of, again, we had a surprise inspection. We really talked about everything on site. And that particular day, they had, I think, I want to say 3 to 4 trucks of contaminated soil left to be taken from the site. And that's what we actually saw the operation of how the trucks came on site, the actual, from the pad to the actual area where the soil was being removed. The entire area has plastic sheathing throughout the entire roadway, and that is to prevent any sort of contaminated soil to actually get on the tires of the trucks. So the trucks come back up to the area where the backhoe is, and again, there's this woman with I think it's a greenish hair. She actually logs in the truck. She actually witnesses the truck being filled. She walks the truck out. She actually sees the person at the end of the driveway cleaning the tires, and he's off on his way. And then the next truck comes in. When we were on the site, I specifically asked Ron how much contaminated soil you have left. He said I think he said about 2 piles left. They were on the north end of the site, and I think he said within a day or so everything's gonna be gone. So the soil that you see currently on the site is all clean fill. It's going to be used to regrade the site, because as you know, you have areas where they're actually taking out soil to put in the tanks for the drainage system, and the site itself has a grate. So what they're doing is they're actually leveling the site. So that soil you see there is all clean fill.
I have seen pieces of things in the soil.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
Like white things, pieces of plastic or whatever, because this is a picture from April 29th. This was, there's a puddle, I call it Lake Weinberg, that keeps showing up on the northern part of the site. It's like a seam of water. I don't know, it keeps showing up there. It's been there for several weeks. And this was April 29th.
You talking about the north end of the site,
it's the north
next to
end-
Rocco's?
It's the north end of where it's the southern end, but it's the north end of that part where the footprint of the hotel is.
Okay.
Okay? And that is from April 29th. There's a sheen on that water. It's probably gas, whatever, but those are aerosol cans that were on there, that were left there. Now, that's April 29th. Now, they were moved. I went last week and they were gone. But my point is that so that soil may or may not be clean. I don't know. The reason I have problems with what we're discussing is that this is from yesterday. This is the site. This is the northern part of the site. This is the entrance. That's dirt, because the security guys are not cleaning their wheels, and they're leaving, and it's muddy, and they're bringing it out.
Is that like the curb out in front? I see that on the left-hand side, looks like the...
Yeah, this is the northern part of the site, close to the brewery. And that's
Yeah, again, that whole stretch of roadway, again, there's a hard pan below it. There's an item for rocks at the driveway side, and the rocks go into the site about, I want to say about 70 feet. And then beyond that, from the driveway to the actual location where the dirt was, is covered completely in plastic.
Oh, and I know, and I see it, but there's mud on the tires. And there's mud, that's mud from the security guys. They're driving all over. They're not doing anything with it. They're not taking it off. This is from April 28th. Now, I know you said you saw the trucks and they were leaving and everything was cool. Well, this is April 28th after everybody left. These are employees, okay? They had two.
Was that the day, not the day we were there after we
I
left?
don't know, was it?
Oh,
Maybe.
a different day, you're
I was
saying.
filming. Maybe you
Oh,
saw me
okay.
filming on the.
No, I don't know. You said after everyone left. I didn't know if you meant
Yeah,
after
no,
we
this
left.
was you know, you said that during the day while you were there, the trucks. This is the dump trucks.
Okay.
I'm talking about employees now.
Oh, like at the end of their
Yeah.
work day. Okay,
DC's
got it.
gone,
Understood.
HDR's gone, everybody's gone. These guys are hanging out, whatever, and then they drove off the site. 3 trucks. They did not stop. They did not wash their wheels. Dust kicked up.
When was that? I'm sorry again?
This was April 28th. April 28th.
We
I
were
have
there.
video.
We were there on the 27th.
27?
Yeah.
Okay.
This
Yeah.
is 28th. I have video of this too, but I just wanted to show you. So the concern I have is that you know they're following certain protocols, but they're not following other protocols. And my concern is that if they're having trouble with the 101 stuff, which this is, especially since I had to bring it up last month, what's going to happen when they do the really serious stuff, which is the dynamic compaction, the drilling of the pilings, and the vapor mitigation system? That's what scares me.
Yeah, we had a long conversation about those particular elements specifically. I know the drilling of the piling is going to begin shortly. They've done some test drilling, and they've done 2 types of drilling, and I know HDR favors one over the other because it's, I guess, better and it causes fewer issues. My understanding is that the samples of water that have come back from that particular drill, the second drill point, everything's clean. Nothing has been found in that water that has come up from the pipe itself. So I think they're confident that you know, Joe spoke about some other things, but the developer and HDR and DEC seem to be confident that the drilling will be okay. Then we also talked about dynamic rapid compaction. So the hours of operation of the site are from 7 to 7. Literally, they can work from 7 to 7. And one of the concerns I have is that, you know, we have neighbors above the ridge there, and you know, some people sleep later than others. And I asked the developer, hey, can you guys, rather than starting at 7 o'clock, can you guys start at 8 o'clock? You know, just be a good neighbor and try to end a little before 6, you know, because hopefully people go to work before 8 o'clock, and by the time they get home and have dinner, you know, you guys are not still hammering away out there. And they agreed to do that. So they will start at 8 o'clock and hopefully be finished by 5, 6 o'clock so that, you know, when you get home, it won't be noisy. It is going to be a noisy process. You know, it's going to be about 100 decibels, the reality. So that is what's going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
You know, I think what you should do the next time you go to the site is bring a white glove and put a white glove where the 2 entrances are and see all the dirt that's in the entrances.
But Mike, one of the things, again, it's dirt. The contaminated dirt, which is further in the site, has been, to my knowledge, today, all been removed. So what we're dealing with right now is dirt. We're not dealing with contaminated dirt.
All right, that's how you feel, but
No,
given
I asked a lot of questions that was specific. You know, it's dirt.
well, you may feel.
I could, and again, I share the same concerns you do. Please, I don't want to make light of it. I mean, I had that concern. I mean, I went there and asked a lot of questions about that, right? Not only of Ron, but also of HDR. They were present at that meeting as well.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
You know, so we asked a lot of questions. That what you're seeing on here right now, if you took this on the 28th, it should be dirt. It's not contaminated dirt. All right.
In addition to that, what we also did is we had a meeting here at Village Hall. I called a meeting with the developer to go ahead and come on in here. We sat with Mr. Weinberg. We sat with this construction team. The guy who owns Peak Construction, he's from Buffalo. He came down. We sat, Tony was at the meeting, our building inspector, and I wanted to get a sense clearly let him know some of the issues that you raised at our last meeting, but also to talk about, you know, where you're at, what's the schedule. Our team was there also, so we all met here at Village Hall. You know, rapid impact compaction, you know, how long is that going to take? When are you going to start? Give us a time, give us a sense for the timeline on this. I don't know if they covered any of this I didn't watch I watched most of the Wednesday meeting at the community center. A lot of times I'm working during the day, so I'm listening to it in the background, but I didn't catch, I don't know if they explained the timeline for the project, you know? So I said, all right, the RIC, Rick, rapid impact compaction. Is it a year? Like, what's it take? So they said, no, 15 days. The guy needs 15 days to pound the soil. So I said, all right, 15 days, 3 weeks, it's gonna rain, it's gonna, maybe the 15 days is off, so I figured, you know what? They need 2 months to go ahead and compact the soil. He said they're gonna compact it on the main area, then they have to bring the machine over to, they gotta build a ramp, I guess, out of the gravel over to where they're gonna build a hotel. They have to do some compaction of the soil over there. Then the pilings, I forget, what did he say? Do you remember on the pilings, how long?
3 to 4 weeks.
3 or 4 weeks, also for installing the piling. So, when you look at their timeline, it looks like 4th of July, that right around that time. To me, I say, okay, it's probably August 1st, and they're starting to build a hotel. The hotel's coming out of the ground. The pilings are in, the ground has been all tamped out, down.
And more importantly, they're going to place the actual barrier.
Yeah, they're gonna lay all the
site.
gravel, all the capping, all that. Well, the entire site will be fully, I guess, with aggregate. or
Correct.
gravel.
Within the next 2 months, we should have a construction site, and the entire site will be substantially capped. The final cap will be when they actually asphalt, but everything else, as far as capping of the actual site itself, should occur in the next 2.5 months.
The healthy skepticism that we all have is still going to continue.
No question,
And,
that's
you know,
fine.
And
Yep,
it's going to.
we understand that, yeah.
The one thing I just want to say to you is final is about the TCE stuff. Regardless of what anyone says, Simonello said that the TCE was not unusual for an industrial area, but we have to remember now that that's not industrial. We rezoned it. It's commercial, and there's no buffer between where that industrial TCE, wherever it's coming from, we can debate where it's coming from. Really, there's no buffer. Guys like Joe live right next to it. Other people live right next to it. So whatever we have to do, whoever we have to rattle, whoever we have to yell at, we should do it. We shouldn't wait. We shouldn't accept anything but answer, because we need to know what's going on, because any TCE is too much TCE. And I may not have health coverage because of the new health care plan, because I'm old and they may charge me 50 times more than so I'm concerned. So whatever we need to do, we can stop fighting, stop yelling, let's figure it out.
I agree.
My recommendation is let's form a committee. We have a lot of let's help each other. Let's work together, citizens and you guys, and let's get this done. I mean, I know there's some animosity here, but there's also some people that are willing to pitch in. We know a lot about it. We know a lot about what businesses are on Marbledale. Let's find it. Let's figure out what the hell's going on and stop it and because we still got to deal with the 2 sites, the 2 P sites.
I totally agree.
What's going on here? And this isn't about politics or anything. It's about let's get this done. DCE is unacceptable. Then let's tell them it's unacceptable. And for Mr. Weinberg, he's got to stop hiding behind Linda Shaw, and he needs to meet us and face the public. And if we have all these concerns, address them. Be a man and come and address us. Stop hiding behind David Sampson and Catavan and everyone else, and meet us and let's talk about this, because this hotel is going to be a reality. But are you a good neighbor? Are you going to respond? Or are you just going to whatever? So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Yes, sir. And I gotta go to the bathroom, so I may have to call it in sick, but go ahead, if we can finish up, please, Chris. Come on up, Mm-hmm.
Chris DiGiorgio, 50 Columbus Avenue, and I was remiss in missing the first April meeting to congratulate you and Mr. Luisi and Mr. Giordano as,
Thank you.
as chair of the Democratic Committee. That's my responsibility, and I just want to say that to you. We have a democracy here, and that's what I have tried to do since I've moved here since 2003. Is to bring democracy to Tuckahoe. And I think I've succeeded in a lot of ways, and I have not succeeded in other ways. I want to talk to you a little bit about a few things that I've discussed before. The Master Plan Committee, have you guys thought about creating an advisory committee, as I sketched out previously, with regard to thinking about looking at the master plan?
We absolutely, yes. We actually put money in this budget for I'm not gonna say a revamp, I don't know what the correct term is, but update is the right term, update of our master plan. So that will be coming this year.
What is the timeline of who you might select to think about?
The first thing we need to do is to engage our planner, which we're going to use the new individual who's working for BFJ Planning, Noah. And we need to sit down with him and kind of have him put together the steps, and then we will go ahead and most likely I'll reach out to. I'm assuming, are you looking to,
If you want me to, I'll.
okay, no, I didn't know. All right, okay.
If you want
All
me
right,
to, fine.
okay.
But I think it's very important about the master plan. I've always thought that. I want to talk a little bit about the zoning board, because there was something a few months ago that Joe Marinello talked about with regard to this 5 prongs. And I want to know, and I think you were on the planning, not the zoning board at one point.
Like 14,
maybe.
15 years ago, yeah.
What is the latitude, and maybe this has to go to the lawyer, what is the latitude of a zoning board to, I'll just say it bluntly, dismiss that 5 prongs idea that, is this in the zoning code that there is a 5 prong, or is it in state law?
It's case law.
It's case
Yeah,
law.
it's a case law.
So, since it's case law, seemingly they have to follow case law.
Correct.
Is that?
Yeah, they have to follow the five-prong test.
Okay, so why, I guess my question, and maybe this needs to be visited in the master plan, is what is their latitude, and how much latitude can they have? I can understand a zoning board having some latitude. Like, for example, if and this is another thing I'm concerned about just in general in the village, is if we say 60 feet is the highest a building can go, and they go to 70 feet, I mean, what recourse do we have as a community to like that?
Chris?
And so my question is, I'll get, my
Sorry.
question is where, how can we, doing an ordinance or whatever, make it a little bit less latitude?
Well,
This is my question.
Gary's gonna answer, so I'll throw in my lay term, I guess. Gary's gonna give your legal opinion on this, but as we know, it's called the Zoning Board of Appeals. So you're going to that board to actually appeal the village code. So the village code says you can only go 50 feet. You need to build your house or your apartment building 55 feet. So you need to go to get an appeal of that village ordinance. So that's first and foremost. But so then to take it a step further, what would be a reasonable appeal versus an unreasonable appeal? If the code says 50 feet and the applicant is asking for 55 feet, they're asking for a 10% variance. When is 10% acceptable, but 12% is, unacceptable? Is 100%, so now I'm going to throw it to our village attorney. That, I think, did I get it right? Is that kind of what you're asking?
You're right on,
Okay.
and there's no direct answer to that. It's a case-by-case basis. It's whether the zoning board applied that test properly. If it aggrieved party thinks that they haven't, they have the Article 78 and go to a judge. Hey, judge, these guys didn't apply it properly, and that's why you have courts.
But, and I guess my question is part of this master plan process, just as, I forgot the gentleman's name, suggested that you take back some of the planning board's latitude, or you have an ability to take something.
That would be separate from the master plan committee. That's actually, and Mr. Mariani brought it up, and it's his friend, the mayor of Pelham, or mayor of, okay. So that was something that we kicked around. That actually would be a law. That would be something that we would have to.
Right, I think Chris is getting, are you getting at like trying to tie the board's hands from what they can and can't do with, by putting things in the code?
Put a parameter of what.
It's tying their hands.
Well, I mean,
I think you may have a problem with it,
Well,
yeah.
If the code says 50 feet and they want to go 100 feet, I mean, I think that's a little bit off the charts. So I guess what is, what is a reasonable
It's
appeal?
again, it's a case-by-case basis. It's a good question. But again, that's why I have courts, and if you think they haven't applied it correctly, that's why people
Well,
appeal.
I think that's something to be
You can add.
thought about.
But it's a good question. I know what you're getting at.
I also want to talk about layers of government here, okay? You're having trouble with the DEC, and I would respectfully suggest you
I wouldn't
call-
say trouble. So I'm just, I need to,
Well, the phone number, you don't have a phone number.
yeah, I don't have the, I want
I would
tonight to be able to
respectfully-
give
I would
everyone the phone number and the name of the
respectfully
person.
ask
Yep.
you to call Amy Collins' office and State Senator Latimer's office, because they are the ombudsman of the state government for you and for us. And if you're not getting a satisfactory answer with regard to a phone number, they should at least have you have a phone number to somebody that you can contact in the state. And I would also talk to you about Sheila Marcotte.
Oh, we
I
talked to
think-
Sheila.
yeah,
Sheila's been
but-
on this, yeah.
But I don't know if you've gotten a satisfactory answer from the County Department of Health. And I don't think it's an unreasonable thing to go to Sheila Marcotte and say, listen, they punted this up to the state, and the state is saying, you know, this is a county matter. Where are you on this, with regard to getting somebody in the County Department of Health on this case, and having them liaison with the state and figuring out who the heck is taking over this?
Well, and see, that's where my problem lies. Is it really the county? Is it Westchester County Department of Health's responsibility? Or is it the state's responsibility? And that's where, you know, it went to the county, then it went to the state. I need to address it from there, yeah.
But I
Yep,
do think
yeah.
those three
Sheila's been
offices-
very active. She's been very proactive, I must say.
All right, but I
yeah.
think she really needs to demand from the Department of Health, and you need to talk to Amy or George, and I think they have to get those two folks on the line and figure out who's taken over, because I think that's part of your frustration, and I don't think that's an unreasonable request. And finally, my question, and I think other people have asked this, have there been any fines assessed to this developer or to this site?
I asked the building inspector that, and I know that he sent a notice of, I'm not sure, he sent a notice on,
Two, I think there was 2 stop work orders, and he paid administrative fines. I think.
no, but I think since that last meeting, or since, you know, and that was a question, you know, yeah. I asked the building inspector, did they get a fine and write a check for a fine? I can't say that. I know that at the time when we were walking on the site, and I asked that question of Mike Seminara and Bill Williams, they got a notice of, you know what, I just don't want to, I don't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah. They did get some notification from the building department that they were doing something wrong. What specifically was it? What was that notice? I'm just unclear on right now.
Mr. Mayor, I understand your bladder issues. Go to the
Yep, I know. All right, thank you very much. So with that, yes, Melba, you're going to have to be brief.
I will be brief.
Thank you.
Hi, Melba Caliano, Westview. With all the discussion about what's going on with the testing and the potential for problems, have you considered installing, creating, developing an emergency plan?
Actually, it's funny interesting you mentioned that, because there was I think it was the last town board meeting, somebody brought up the question, is there an emergency plan for the school district? And the town actually I thought that they didn't really answer that correctly, because I know I've talked to the superintendent of schools, and I'm going to get to your question. And I know that the school district has an emergency plan. If something were to occur in school, they have that. Does the village of Tuckahoe, do we have an emergency plan, like an emergency evacuation plan or something along those lines? We do not. We had years ago, I know there was an insurance company up on the 3rd floor. And one of the things that they did is they actually provided a service, you paid for it, of you would hire them. If you had an emergency in your community, it was one phone call within, I don't know how many hours. You had tractor trailer trucks of generators parked out front. You had hazmat stations if you needed it. So there are companies that the village can't do it, obviously. You hire or you outsource that service. So do we have a plan in effect? No. Would we have access to go ahead and hire a firm if we needed it? Absolutely. First thing I would do is probably call the mayor of Yonkers or the mayor of Mount Vernon, a larger city, and go ahead and find out which particular firm that they use. And for all I know, we might already have, I'm not going to speak for David, but yeah, David, so I should have asked him to answer the question.
The village, is The village does
Yes.
have
Yep.
the village does have a plan in place. It's a hazard mitigation plan. It's through Westchester County.
Oh, that, okay, all right, so
About
that's
10
it?
years ago, it was required by New York State. A lot of municipalities did them on their own. Westchester County was the lead agency on one that was recently adopted about a year ago. So there is a plan in place. And I don't want to speak for the police department, but I believe they also have a plan in place, say if there's a chemical spill or something, in something in that nature, they also have a plan in place to go ahead and mitigate that.
And it sounds like the fire department has some
emergency
hazmat
responses.
issue
So there
also.
are a couple of those types of plans in place.
Yeah, that was my question. You have your fire department, you have your county, you have your police department, and who knows who goes first?
That's all in the plan.
It's all in the plan. Are they practicing drilling?
Yes. Westchester County does one every year.
How old is the plan that you referred to that you needed 10 years ago? Has it been updated in 10 years?
It was approximately 2006 when the governor first instituted the plan that New York State municipalities had to have the plans. They need to be updated every 5 years. I can't speak to the first one that the village did. I wasn't here, but I know Westchester County did it for all the villages, or most villages, towns, cities, and did a multi-jurisdictional plan that was adopted last year. So they have to be updated every 5 years at least.
So do you know when it was last updated?
I believe it was
you
last
said?
year.
Yeah.
And they're practicing based on that plan?
They practice based on the plan, yes.
Because this is not a contingency. They need to be ready to go.
No, I understand.
They don't need to sit there and say, whose phone number do we call? Who goes first, the police department or the fire department? Do we call the county first? Because that's what we've seen from the board, from the DEC, from the Department of Health. You all have to know who goes first, and you have to go fast, because time is going to be your enemy. And you have the time now to plan ahead. And if you never need it, you'll be amazingly lucky. And if you do need it, you'll be able to cut down to seconds, and seconds are going to count. So that's my suggestion.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am. You know what? I'm going to take a recess, so I'm sorry, you're going to have to wait. Unless it's like super quick.
It's super quick.
All right.
In regard to that just talking about right
Yep.
now, Xenia Kokotis, 20 Brookridge. On April 28th, I called Town Hall. And
Town Hall or Village Hall?
Village Hall.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you guys, Village
Mhm.
Hall. And there was a really bad stink in the air. It was horrendous. And I called you guys, and all my neighbors said, oh, we're all going to call, we're going to call. So people called. And in regard to the plan or anything, nobody showed up. I spoke to somebody, and they said, yes, we're going to send somebody out. So, okay, don't worry about it. Nobody showed up. I was home all day. I was looking out the window. I had
And
my
this was, where do you live? Where?
April 28th,
No, where do you live? You said the call was?
Brookridge.
Brookridge, okay.
Right on the ridge.
Right up in Eastchester by
Yes.
the, okay, got it.
Yes, and when I called
Okay.
Eastchester, they said, you got to call you guys, because it's your property, it's your community.
Yeah, but you, okay, that's odd. I mean, you live in Eastchester. You would call Eastchester. You should call Eastchester. I get that. But anyway, but you
And
call
yes,
Tuckahoe.
Yes, we called
Okay.
Tuckahoe. Everybody called Tuckahoe. Nobody came. I mean, nobody came.
Yeah, I'd have to follow up on that. I can't speak to it right now, obviously. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much for your vibrant discussion tonight, and I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn so we can all go to the bathroom. A second.
Second.
Thank you very much. Have a great evening, Tuckahoe.